Chapter 32:22. If Su Yun was present, he would definitely be in a good mood when he heard this news. Although there were many black sheep among the Huaxia celebrities who did some disgusting things and caused some negative effects, there were also many hard-working people who did not get the chance to be recognized. In this era, as long as there was someone to support them, as long as there was exposure, many people could be promoted. It was that simple. When many Korean celebrities came to Huaxia to take up the exposure of the Huaxia entertainment industry, the exposure of the celebrities in the Huaxia entertainment industry decreased. What Su Yun despised the most was some domestic brands. There were millions of Huaxia celebrities, but they liked to look for Korean celebrities to be their endorsers. They would rather give Korean celebrities the money they earned from the people than give their own country's celebrities a chance. Advertisements were also a kind of exposure. In some ways, this was a kind of resource. Take Kung Fu Wine as an example. In its glory days, it was also the prime time of the news broadcast. Kung Fu Wine announces the time for you. After watching the broadcast, you could see Teacher Lu saying, Kung Fu Wine makes people homesick. At that time, Kung Fu Wine was awesome, so Teacher Lu's exposure was also very awesome. There were not many people in China who did not know him. There were also many people who could imitate him and sing. During the Olympics, he could stand in the center of the stage and sing with a foreign celebrity. At that time, Kung Fu Wine's advertisement definitely contributed to his exposure. At that time, it was not like now, where even primary school students had smartphones and laptops. In that era, there were televisions, and there were no messy channels that wantonly spent energy on Korean celebrities to increase ratings. At that time, most Huaxia people liked to watch the news broadcast at night. Even if it was nonsense, it was good enough. After all, life was not so rich at that time. At that time, whoever could endorse a company that could advertise on a TV during prime time would also become popular in the country. After all, the media was not as advanced as it was now. Times were different now. As long as there was a promoter, the exposure rate would be sufficient. Even Sister Fong, who looked like an eyesore, could become popular, right? The more the era was like this, the more important exposure was. The Koreans came to Huaxia and stole a lot of exposure. To be honest, the artists in the Huaxia entertainment circle hated them very much. If it weren't for these Korean stars, some talented people wouldn't have been unable to get any media exposure. Su Yun followed the sting ants for another hour or so. Under such circumstances, he was a little disappointed. Their speed was simply too slow. Pigeon, climb up the tree. Go ahead and take a look. Su Yun gave Lin Gu an order. Lin Gu was already tired of walking below. After receiving Su Yun's command, he immediately climbed up the tree trunk. Although it was dangerous to walk on the tree trunk, it could increase his speed by a lot. If it weren't for the sting ants, they couldn't take the risk of letting him climb up the tree. Then, they wouldn't have to walk on the muddy ground for so long. The sting ant didn't mention this request. He was also a smart person. He knew that there was no point in mentioning it. Su Yun and the others wouldn't let him have this opportunity. Once he climbed up the tree, the sting ant's chances of escaping would increase greatly. Lin Gu used several times his speed to scout ahead. Along the way, he tripped a few times because of the slippery tree trunk. Fortunately, he controlled his body well and didn't embarrass himself. You can't walk after such a short distance? This doesn't seem like the style of Huaxia's special forces. The sting ant saw Lin Ji's figure disappear into the night. He turned around and said to Su Yun. Su Yun frowned. When did you notice? From the beginning. The sting ant said, only people of your status would risk their lives like that. If you know, then don't talk nonsense. Su Yun. Let's go. The sting ant laughed. Do you know how many roads I've walked? I don't know. I'm not interested to know. Su Yun. I don't want to walk with you for so long. If my judgment is wrong, there's no need for us to continue wasting our strength and energy. The sting ant shrugged nonchalantly. Then let's wait for your lackeys to bring back the news. Do you think I'm giving you face? Su Yun glanced at the sting ant. After Lin Gu left, the sting ant became more talkative. Perhaps it wasn't that the sting ant thought that no one would talk to him after Lin Gu left. Instead, the sting ant felt that it was a rare opportunity to be alone. There was no better time than now to escape. I know what you're thinking. So, I'm warning you. You don't stand a chance. Su Yun, I'm not in the mood to talk nonsense with you. Do you understand? Looks like you're really tired from walking. The sting ant shrugged nonchalantly. Su Yun didn't hold back anymore. He directly exposed the sting ant's thoughts. Do you think that there's only one person watching you right now? As long as you find a route, you'll have a chance to escape, right? The sting ant naturally wouldn't admit that his thoughts were exposed. However, Su Yun's words extinguished the small flame that had just risen in his heart. You've always been suspicious of me. This makes it difficult for me. The sting ant complained. If you don't have the intention to betray us, why would you think that we've always been suspicious of you? Su Yun asked back. Sting ant, stop lying to yourself. I know you're looking for an opportunity, but I'm warning you. It's not that easy to find an opportunity. The sting ant smiled bitterly. Su Yun's words were like a slap in his face. He was telling him that they would always be on guard and wouldn't give him any chance. The sting ant waved his hand and continued to walk forward. He wasn't at his most exhausted state yet. There really wasn't a good opportunity. If one walked in the mud for 2 or 3 days, one's concentration would be relaxed. This was human nature, a normal phenomenon. Perhaps by then, it would be easier for him to find an opportunity. Don't expect us to give you an opportunity in the next 2 to 3 days. Su Yun once again saw through the sting ant's thoughts. Before I get the thing, I won't relax for even a second. The sting ant's eyes narrowed into a line. All right, I'll remember your words. Find the thing, I'll definitely bring you guys to find it first. You'll only have a chance if you find the thing. Su Yun threw a sentence at the sting ant. I'm not the kind of person who would kill everyone. The sting ant cursed in his heart. His entire sacred flame mercenary group was destroyed. How could he say that he wasn't the kind of person who would kill everyone? So what if he was given a chance to live in his current state? There was no point in letting him live. He no longer had the passion to form a new mercenary group. Everyone around him was dead. Everyone he could trust was dead. This was the feeling of having nothing left to live for. The sting ant obediently followed Su Yun and Lin Gu because he still had a thought in his heart. He hoped that the Lord he believed in would give him a chance to take revenge. The sting ant wanted Su Yun and Lin Gu to die. He had never planned to give up the beast head. If he had the chance to get the beast head, he could sell it and find a place to live in seclusion for the rest of his life. He could even live like a tycoon emperor. If he didn't even have the beast head, then there was no point in him living. In other words, if the sting ant didn't care about the beast head and didn't want it anymore, he could just let Su Yun take it away. He might as well choose to die. Death would be the end of everything. The sting ant endured the humiliation and followed them all the way here. He was even forced to parachute in such dangerous weather and was almost struck to death by lightning. This meant that he still had a bit of energy in his heart. He still had the thought of taking back the beast head and the urge to take revenge. This was the sting ant's motivation. Anyone who knew a little about psychology would be able to guess the sting ant's true thoughts. Therefore, his thoughts wouldn't escape Su Yun's eyes. The reason why Su Yun was constantly on guard against the sting ant and didn't dare to relax for even a second was because he knew exactly what the sting ant was thinking. The sting ant's cooperation was just a facade on the surface. Its true thoughts were quite terrifying. Su Yun saw through everything. That was why he was even more careful. The closer they were to their target, the higher the chances of the sting ant causing trouble. This was inevitable. Chapter 32-23. Su Yun and the sting ant walked for another 10 minutes before they suddenly heard the sound of leaves rustling in the distance. Soon, Lin Gu slid down from a big tree in front of them. Lin Gu was a person who didn't know how to hide his thoughts. Everything was written on his face. He excitedly told Su Yun, There really is a campsite in front. Su Yun nodded and motioned for him to continue. This seemed to make the sting ant suddenly excited. It immediately turned around and looked at Lin Gu. We'll be there in about an hour. Lin Gu said, it's a simple campsite. It's a small mercenary group with about 40 to 50 people. It seems to be a long-term campsite. A mercenary group with 40 to 50 people wasn't big, but in a place like the Golden Horn where there were many mercenary groups, it wasn't small. Other than a few drug lords who could hire a mercenary group with more than 100 people, most of the illegal businesses in the Golden Horn would be lucky if they could hire a mercenary group with 50 people. Their weapons aren't too advanced, but they aren't too backward either. Most of them are just average. Lin Gu continued, from the looks of it, they can be considered well-trained. Their combat abilities should be pretty good. Su Yun could roughly estimate the physical abilities of these mercenaries. Su Yun knew what kind of people could survive here, but didn't have the qualifications to survive in better places. Therefore, Su Yun was more concerned about firepower. If a mercenary group with 50 people had a lot of firepower, it would be very difficult to deal with. What kind of weapons do they have? The outermost sentries seem to be using Hungary's AKM-63, Lin Gu said. The sting ant immediately let out a doubtful sigh. Every country has AK-series guns that imitate the appearance. How can you tell that it's Hungary's AKM-63 in such a dark day? Your eyes are really good. Of course my eyes are good, because I'm not as blind as you. Lin Gu was too lazy to argue with the ant. He didn't need the ant to believe him. Su Yun glanced at the ant. Don't you know that the AKM-63 produced in Hungary in the past had a wooden grip under the front guard? Without the guard, it's a very obvious distinguishing mark. Anyone who has played with guns before should be able to easily tell if it's a Hungarian AKM-63 or not. What's so surprising about that? The stinging ant was speechless. I didn't get a clear look at their camp, but I'm sure they have August series assault rifles, Enfield SA-80S, and even our Type 95, Lin Gu said. Su Yun nodded. It seemed like their individual weapon configuration was pretty good. Do you have more firepower? They have Negev light machine guns, howitzers, individual rocket launchers, and the like. Their firepower is pretty good, Lin Gu said. We definitely can't force our way in. If we do, we'll definitely be shot to death. Su Yun roughly understood the threat of the enemy's firepower. Their equipment is pretty good, but it's still lacking compared to our Sacred Flame mercenary group. The ant said with disdain. If you really have weapons on you, don't say that again. Lin Gu said impatiently, otherwise, don't say it. It sounds like you're jealous. I don't have any. The ant was a little unhappy. If it wasn't for Hua Xia's strict rules, we wouldn't have left our equipment behind. What individual equipment can you be proud of? Su Yun was really interested. Don't talk like you're not going to be taken care of by us just because you have equipment. What do you think? The ant said provocatively. You want to know? Then I'll tell you. My people are all equipped with level 111A helmets. It's more advanced than the helmets of the German army during World War II. The bullets and shrapnel from 9mm or .44 Forest pistols can't do any damage to the helmets. Lin Gu clicked his tongue. What's so great about that? It's as if everyone doesn't have good helmets. Our goggles can block UV rays, sand, and bullet shrapnel during the day. I don't need to explain the infrared night vision goggles at night. We also have a new bulletproof vest with ceramic pieces. It can block large caliber bullets. The ant said proudly. Su Yun nodded. That's right. Lin Gu spat. Why don't you go to heaven? Are you using an XM8 light assault rifle? You're really smart. You can even guess that. The ant looked a little proud. It was quite unpleasant to see it. Even an idiot wouldn't be able to guess it. You're just wearing the equipment of the American soldiers. What's there to brag about? Lin Gu couldn't stand this kind of person. Our Hua Xia's 01 Kevlar helmet is also awesome. Our 99 combat boots are also not bad. Our assault rifles, sniper rifles, machine guns, and rocket launchers are also not bad. Do you understand? The ant still had a look of disdain on his face. Sometimes, the equipment of individual soldiers was also a reflection of a country's strength. Why didn't the ant want to use the weapons produced by Hua Xia? It was because he had always treated his Sacred Flame mercenary group as a high-end mercenary group. Therefore, he couldn't let his people use those things that he didn't like. His people had to use the XM8 light assault rifle used by the American soldiers. Otherwise, they had to use the new N94 assault rifle from Russia. Only then could they show how high-end they were. If he used the Type 95 or the old AK series, then his mercenary group's level would instantly drop. They wouldn't be able to act cool anymore. Mercenary groups were also very particular about acting cool. If they didn't act cool, then the price wouldn't go up. For example, if he drove a Ferrari to flirt with girls, he would definitely be able to flirt with girls who were at the level of models. If he went to have sex at night, it would definitely be free. He would be served comfortably. If he drove an old Santana from 18 years ago to flirt with girls, he would definitely be able to flirt with girls who worked in dirty and messy alleyways. At night, he would definitely ask for a service fee. Moreover, there wouldn't be any service. He would definitely not be as good at flirting with girls who drove a Ferrari. He would definitely not be as good at flirting with girls who drove a Ferrari. In reality, he might be better at flirting with girls, but he would definitely lose miserably if he were to compete with girls who were dedicated and pure. This had nothing to do with people. It had to do with money. A car was equipment. Equipment was a symbol of money. Money was a symbol of strength. Even little girls who had just entered society knew that they were all having sex. Why not find someone who was more capable? The big bosses who had the money to hire these mercenaries were even more clear that they had to find someone who was more capable. Otherwise, what was the point of finding someone who was more capable? If they wanted to offer a high price, they had to first make their equipment worth the price. The Sacred Flame mercenary group was able to become famous in the mercenary world because the big bosses saw that their equipment was good and were willing to fork out their wallets for them. When there were many people who were willing to fork out their wallets for them, their reputation would rise. They would feel that they were high-end and classy. They would feel that the money spent on them was too worth it. This was just like those who looked pure but were wild when having sex. This was what was called value. So what if it was a little more expensive? Rich people liked this kind of people. Therefore, their taste in mercenary groups was the same. Their equipment was high-end and their service was not bad at all. They could settle things properly. The Sacred Flame mercenary group built up their reputation bit by bit like this. However, after this, there might not be a Sacred Flame mercenary group in the world anymore. A mercenary group whose equipment is not as good as your Sacred Flame mercenary group, even if they have more people, what's the use? Su Yun smiled faintly. Tonight, we will borrow their camp. Stinging ants, you don't have any objections, right? How would I dare to have any objections? Stinging ants said. The Golden Triangle is a place with endless conflicts. Between drug dealers and mercenaries, the conflicts have never stopped. It's normal to have some trouble at night. Su Yun smiled. That's good. I thought you would have some rules and regulations. If there are rules and regulations, it's none of my business. Stinging ants said. I'm just one person. What kind of mercenary group can I be considered? Yo, your awareness is very high this time. You can be taught. Lin Gu praised. After we get that mercenary group's camp, I will definitely give you 2 more mosquito-repellent incense tablets. Stinging ants were startled. Are you planning to let me sleep by myself? No one will watch over me? Nonsense. Lin Gu said. That's a small camp with at least 50 people. How can it not have a room to lock people up? Stinging ants heard this and turned around in disappointment. This Lin Gu was deliberately making fun of him. Chapter 32-24. Brother, I found a lot of Chinese faces among these people. Lin Gu suddenly lowered his voice. Overall, this is very likely to be a Huaxia-based mercenary group. Su Yun nodded. The Huaxia mercenaries in the Golden Triangle were not a minority. It is a long-standing and quite common historical phenomenon for Huaxia people to be mercenaries in the Golden Triangle. There is nothing strange about it. There is a quite complicated historical background behind it, and it is difficult to separate. Lin Gu frowned. Why did they go to the Golden Triangle to be mercenaries? Setting up a mercenary organization in Huaxia is courting death. Su Yun said bluntly, these people have serious anti-human and antisocial tendencies, so they want to find a place where they can hurt people without any scruples. The Golden Triangle is the best choice. Think of the villains in the news reports: Li Bing, the former boxing champion of Chuandu; Su Ming, the demon who killed people and dismembered bodies; Zhou Hua, who roamed around killing and robbing. These guys who once shocked people's eyes all had a history of being mercenaries in the Golden Triangle. Su Ming, who killed people and dismembered bodies, once admitted during the interrogation that it was because of this kind of mercenary experience that he regarded human life as worthless. The temptation of going to the Golden Triangle to be mercenaries was that these people with anti-human tendencies could not be restrained in that place, and they could make more money, which was very attractive to them. Perhaps many people also knew that the average mercenary salary was not much, and it was not as terrifying as the legendary figure. But even so, the money they could make was more than 10 times what these people made in China, so this temptation was very huge for them. Moreover, later on, some mercenaries with enough strength began to take a commission from drug trafficking, which invisibly increased their money and business volume. There was also a more important point. Once they did not want to be mercenaries in the Golden Triangle, they could return to China more easily. Many people who had been mercenaries in the Golden Triangle made enough money and had to return to China under the influence of injuries. After returning to China, the outside world did not know their past. Almost no one would be investigated and tried by the domestic judicial system for their actions abroad. When they came back, they would be innocent. This was also a very important point. In the active experience of Huaxia mercenaries in the Golden Triangle area, most of the time they worked directly or indirectly as thugs for various large and small drug cartels in the Golden Triangle. Therefore, the purpose of some mercenaries returning to Huaxia was to open up a new drug market in Huaxia for drug dealers, or to recruit some domestic people to the Golden Triangle to enjoy illegal activities such as prostitution, gambling, and drugs. Some of them directly used their identities to recruit new people to become mercenaries. This was no secret to Su Yun and the others. Due to the recent incidents, Su Yun had solved many of these problems when he was in Dragon's Fury. Even now, such problems still existed. The Dragon Brigade would often arrange for their brothers from the Special Forces to come to the southern border to solve these problems. However, due to some reasons, some battles could only be solved within the country. This was also the reason why Su Yun was both familiar with the Golden Triangle and not too familiar with it. He had carried out many missions in this place, especially when he was younger a few years ago. This was a place to hone his skills. But he also abided by the national law. He would not take the brothers of Dragon's Fury out of the border privately. He was very calm about this. This was also why Wan Guangxiao trusted him so much that he handed over the Dragon Fury team to him. Of course, the proportion of such people was small, but the potential threat was greater. Although these mercenaries also worked for the drug cartels active in the Golden Triangle, their main purpose was not for economic income, but for extremists who were driven by strong ideology. In fact, they were extremists under the command of some extremist organizations. By transporting drugs into the country, they could not only obtain funds for terrorist organizations, but also further erode and corrupt the domestic social foundation. These armed drug trafficking acts themselves were an important and even the main link used by extremist organizations to train their soldiers. This was a very serious matter in Huaxia. Su Yun himself could not remember how many of these traitorous extremists he had dealt with. However, these drug dealers were difficult to eliminate completely. Su Yun really had a headache about this matter. The drug dealers in the Golden Triangle were despicable. He had to teach them a lesson every few days. If he did not teach them a lesson, they would not grow up. Although these drug dealers and mercenaries could be wiped out on a large scale every time, they would emerge again when the spring breeze blew. There was also a reason for this. The new generation of the Golden Triangle area was much larger. The center of gravity was completely spread out along the southern border of Huaxia. In fact, it was no longer the Golden Triangle area that was close to the triangular shape, and it involved more than the three countries. Strictly speaking, today's Golden Triangle area also included Laizhou province of Yu Country and a small area west of Nujiang in Nanyun province of Huaxia. The criminal activities in these places were very rampant. The Dragon's Fury Brigade would arrange a special combat team to perform tasks here every half a month in order to ensure the stability and safety of the country. These things were not reported, so no one knew how much blood they had paid for the country. Just look at the anti-narcotics police. How many anti-narcotics police officers died in the hands of drug dealers and mercenaries every year? And there was a deeper reason. As the anti-drug efforts of other countries and regions in Southeast Asia became stronger and stronger, the Yue Empire also continued to force the Sawatikas to strengthen anti-drug efforts and carry out large-scale anti-drug operations. It was more and more difficult for the Golden Triangle's drug sources to go south. The proportion of drugs going north into Huaxia had become higher and higher. It was terrifying to say that almost half of the Golden Triangle's drugs flowed into Huaxia through the southern border. This kind of large-scale illegal trade required a large number of people, especially people who were familiar with Huaxia's social situation, to complete it. This also allowed a steady stream of Huaxia people to become mercenaries. Moreover, a considerable number of drug dealers in the Golden Triangle themselves were people from Huaxia. The number of mercenaries under their command was definitely not small. A considerable number of drug dealers themselves had experience as mercenaries in armed escort or drug trafficking. It could be said that this was a fairly huge industrial chain. This was why it had always been difficult to completely eliminate those bastards in the southern border. Huaxia had more than 1 billion people. What a huge market, so no matter how high the price was, no matter how many people died, drug dealers had always been thinking of ways to make money. This was also the reason why Su Yun and his Sky Entertainment Group strongly demanded that those artists and public figures who were tainted with the word drug be completely banned. This kind of influence was really bad. In this modern and advanced society, once poison flowed in, it would spread very quickly, so fast that it was unbelievable. This was a very serious problem. Brother, if we make a move later, we... Lin Gu looked at Su Yun with some hesitation. Su Yun didn't have any expression of pity on his face. He resolutely said one word to Lin Gu: kill. Lin Gu nodded. His scruples were because, after all, there were compatriots among the mercenaries. Towards compatriots, he would have the idea of being lenient. This kind of thinking was obviously very normal. However, Su Yun didn't have the slightest intention of forgiving these people. When he thought of some ignorant children who were still in high school being harmed by poison, Su Yun's heart couldn't be at ease. If it weren't for the help of these Huaxia drug dealers and Huaxia mercenaries, the poison in the Golden Triangle area wouldn't have spread so smoothly in the country. If these people didn't cooperate with the farmers in the Golden Triangle, how could so much poison flow into Huaxia with the IQ of those people? Who was the main culprit? Who could say who the main culprit was? In Su Yun's eyes, all the people in Huaxia who were harmed by drugs, their families, their children, and the main culprits who caused these people to be harmed were their compatriots. These Huaxia people who went to the Golden Triangle to serve the drug, for profit or other reasons. People who made money by harming their compatriots and their own country were the most King heartless. For such people, Su Yun couldn't wait to kill them whenever he saw them. Not leaving a single one alive. Otherwise, even if these people washed their hands in a gold basin and returned to the country, they would still be unstable factors in the country's society. Chapter 32-25. With Su Yun's identity, he shouldn't have said such things. In general, controlling crime wasn't killing, but making them repent. Repent? Bull *T. Su Yun didn't have much tolerance for these people, just like how he didn't have any tolerance for human traffickers. In Su Yun's eyes, this was completely different from the nature of petty theft and fighting. It was true that petty thieves deserved to be beaten, but the losses they caused were all material. These worldly possessions wouldn't hurt people for too long. Petty thieves should be beaten and educated. At least they would remember the pain when they came out. If they met someone who was enlightened and used their own actions to make up for the losses, the people who suffered would forgive them. However, it was different for those who stole and sold their children. The loss caused by this was a psychological loss. It was a pain that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. So this kind of person deserved to die. Even if he changed, it wouldn't calm the hearts of any victims, because no one could make up for their own children. It was the same for fighting. Those who should be punished would be punished, and those who should be educated would be educated. There was still a chance to change. But as a mercenary, don't think about changing. Once a person killed for benefits and harmed people for benefits, then he didn't deserve to be a human anymore. Without the most basic conscience, what was there to talk about repentance? Su Yun was also very dissatisfied with the punishments of these two laws. Those who trafficked children were not sentenced to death, and their sentences were even worse than some people who acted in legitimate self-defense. The punishment for excessive self-defense was not reasonable at all. As for drug traffickers and those who helped drug traffickers, a death sentence was enough. They even had to set a dosage of more than 50 grams to be sentenced to death. The numerical limit seemed very small, but there was definitely room for manipulation within it. Even in Singapore and Malaysia, there was a death penalty for those with more than 15 grams. That's right, death penalty. Shouldn't a big country like Huaxia make an example? Death penalty for 1 gram. This way, this society could be completely cleaned up. If they didn't seize the time to deal with it, wouldn't the children in 20 years be like the children in the United States now? There would even be people selling marijuana in the middle school. By then, it would be too late. In recent years, the situation had also changed. In the past, the countries in the Golden Triangle had the same attitude. As long as they did not declare independence, they would turn a blind eye to the source of the poison. But now, their attitude began to harden. In an extremely tense situation, the other local ethnic armed forces of the Golden Triangle began to be on high alert. Their dependence on the drug had increased instead. In this case, the armed forces in the Golden Triangle not only had to sell more drugs to Huaxia, but also had to strengthen their own military strength as much as possible to deal with future civil conflicts. This formed a huge manpower gap in the Golden Triangle, so the demand for mercenaries in the Golden Triangle would only increase further. Huaxia mercenaries, who were familiar with the situation in Huaxia and had various social connections in Huaxia, would inevitably play a more important role in the Golden Triangle. Therefore, Su Yun would never tolerate them. Kill them. Never leave any future trouble. Only the dead were the safest. The armed mercenaries who were associated with drug dealers were a dangerous organization that all countries in the world knew. Su Yun had no reason to give them a chance to live. These scum of society, the scum of Huaxia, did not deserve to live. You can even kill your own compatriots? The stinging ant said sarcastically, this is not something a compatriot should do. If they really regarded Huaxia people as their compatriots, they wouldn't find ways to smuggle the damn drugs in the Golden Triangle into Huaxia and poison their own compatriots. Su Yun glared at the stinging ant. You better not challenge my limits. I know you have done things in the Golden Triangle. You have also poisoned my compatriots. It is only right for me to kill you. But you can't kill me, the stinging ant said. That's why you'd better watch your mouth. Don't force me to do it. Su Yun's eyes were full of murderous intent. The stinging ant couldn't help but tremble. The stinging ant realized that Su Yun valued this bottom line very much, so he didn't dare to say anything. At this moment, the stinging ant began to doubt. He doubted if Su Yun would really let him go as he promised at the beginning, as long as he helped him find the animal head. Although the stinging ant didn't quite believe it before, he still had a little bit of hope. Now, he didn't even have such a little hope. If he didn't have any pity for his compatriots who had walked through the drugs in the Golden Triangle, then wouldn't he, a foreigner, be worthless in Su Yun's eyes? Su Yun once again saw through the stinging ant's thoughts. His voice was stiff and dry. Stinging ant, I am a man of my words. As long as you don't look for trouble, I won't go back on my words. Do you understand what I mean? The stinging ant smiled bitterly. Yes, of course, I understand your threat. This isn't as serious as a threat. This can only be considered as a warning. Su Yun said, a threat isn't as simple as that. Su Yun's gaze fell on the stinging ant's eyes. The stinging ant didn't even last for a second before he looked away. After he finished speaking, Su Yun continued to walk forward. The stinging ant held his breath and gritted his teeth as he followed closely behind. When he exchanged glances with Su Yun just now, he actually felt like he was facing the Grim Reaper. Perhaps Su Yun's anger had been completely ignited at this moment. That was why he had the aura of the Grim Reaper. Lin Gu knew very well when Su Yun was serious and when he was relaxed. Before he came back, Su Yun was always in a relaxed state. That was why the stinging ant didn't feel threatened and was so talkative. However, it was different now. Su Yun wasn't as relaxed as before. He was serious. This kind of seriousness was terrifying. It was so serious that it made it hard for one to breathe. Su Yun's anger towards those who couldn't be forgiven wasn't that easy to calm down. The stinging ant's mind was in a mess. He realized that he had to escape as soon as possible. The sooner the better. He couldn't wait until the end to think of a way to escape. Once that happened, there would be too few ways to escape. At this moment, the mercenaries in the campsite didn't feel the killing intent that was slowly approaching from afar. To them, after a heavy rain, they could enjoy the cool breeze, smoke, and gamble a little. That was the most comfortable time of the day. As the saying goes, blessings don't come in pairs and misfortune doesn't come alone. Today was the first day this mercenary group took root in this deep forest. They had just lost their boss. A huge battle broke out 2 days ago. 3 local drug dealers joined forces and launched an attack on their boss. The group of people who were supposed to work for their boss saw that the situation wasn't good. They retreated under the leadership of their leader. This was a battle where they knew they would be annihilated at a glance. There was no need to gamble at all. The only thing the enemy didn't do was board a plane or a tank. That fierce firepower completely flattened their base. It was really thorough. There was nothing left of the base that was completely flattened. This unrighteous mercenary group didn't leave behind many benefits. They only managed to bring out some weapons and a batch of goods. This was already considered lucky enough. As a mercenary group with close to 50 people, although the scale wasn't big, it wasn't too small either. It wasn't difficult for them to find a new job. However, their leader gave the order that now wasn't the time to find a new boss. If they were to seek refuge now, they would be looked down upon. They needed a period of time to stabilize. In these few days, the leader of the mercenary group didn't want to be idle. He wanted to bring his brothers to deliver this batch of goods to Huaxia. Because the boss was dead, he didn't have the contact information of a contact person. This gave him a huge headache. This batch of goods wasn't small. 50 kilograms. If they were caught, they would be killed 10,000 times. Therefore, without a contact person, he didn't dare to do this rashly. But if he didn't do it, this 50 kilograms of goods was a lot of money. Even if he sought refuge with a new boss, if this goods were to fall into the hands of the boss, 80% of the profits would be taken away. Even if he was willing, his brothers in the mercenary group wouldn't be. This was something that everyone had risked their lives to do. They had risked their lives. It was bleeding. For this 50 kilograms of powder, he lost several brothers. Chapter 32-26. Everyone listen up. The leader of the Chinese mercenary group suddenly said, "We can't stay here any longer. Is there anyone who isn't afraid of trouble? Come with me to sell the goods. Let's sell this batch of goods that our brothers worked so hard to get and make a profit." The mercenaries who were noisy just now suddenly became silent. "Boss, are we going to sell the goods ourselves? Wouldn't that be too dangerous?" Someone immediately voiced his doubts. "I won't force those who don't want to go." The mercenary group leader was righteous. Tell me if you want to go. As long as the goods are sold smoothly this time, I will do it myself in the future. How much can we earn from the commission? Do you know how much we can earn from shipping the goods in the future? Everyone was silent. They all knew about this profit, but they didn't calculate it in detail. In our golden triangle, the pure goods in our hands are less than 100 yuan per gram. The mercenary group leader said, "How much did we get from selling all of them?" 1 kilogram was 1 kilogram. 50 kilograms was amazing. It was only 5 million yuan. At a glance, this number was amazing. However, if a mercenary group of 50 people took 10% of the goods, then each mercenary would get less than 10,000 yuan on average. If they sold the goods themselves, the close to 5 million yuan would be theirs. Boss, if we do it ourselves, will the money be divided among the brothers? Someone raised a doubt. How much can the brothers eat? Can we get 50,000 yuan per person? Nonsense. Of course we can. The mercenary group leader said sternly, "It's more than 50,000 yuan. As long as we do it well, the profit in it is beyond your imagination." What the leader said is right. If we do it ourselves, it won't be a matter of 50,000 yuan. Someone stood up. The pure goods in our hands can be exchanged for 5 grams per gram. The profit can be multiplied by 5 times. 5 times. 5 million yuan became 25 million yuan in an instant. But this wasn't the most terrifying part of the profit. If they were to be a first-hand dealer in the country, the wholesale price of less than 100 yuan could be sold for at least 300 yuan. This was another 3 times. 3 times meant that 25 million yuan became 75 million yuan. A second-hand dealer who got 300 yuan could sell it for 500 to 600 yuan. It doubled again, from 75 million to 150 million. Third-hand drug dealers would sell it for at least 1,000 yuan. In those big cities where strict regulations were enforced, such as the capital, the demand for 2,000 yuan per gram could not meet the demand. There were even cases of people selling it for 3,000 yuan per gram. 150 million would instantly become 500 million. With just the 50 kilograms of goods in their hands, they would be able to obtain such a huge profit in the end. This was really called making a huge profit with a small capital. Why did so many people choose to take the risk? It was because the benefits were too terrifying. Many people didn't even dare to think about it. Things like benefits were addictive. Once you tasted the sweetness for the first time, you would definitely not be able to stop yourself in the future. The reason why this kind of thing could not be completely eradicated was because the benefits of this thing were too great. The public service advertisement said that if there was no business, there would be no harm. To put it more bluntly, there would be no business without benefits. The higher the risk, the greater the reward. This was the reason why these things continued to happen. Humans were creatures of interest. They lived for material things. Why were there so many people willing to do things that were borderline and break the law for huge profits? It was a matter of values. This problem was especially serious in Huaxia. Every child would experience and feel for themselves from a young age. What kind of social status did the rich people around them have, and what kind of social status did the poor people have? Everything was something that everyone could feel for themselves from a young age. This had nothing to do with education or family influence. It was social influence. The simplest social influence had changed many people's values. There was a saying that a man would not be rich without a windfall, and a horse would not be fat without eating at night. There was nothing wrong with this saying. How many people who worked hard with their own 2 hands were rich? Not to mention ordinary workers or small company staff. Even if it were the civil servants and business managers who relied on the government for their livelihood, which of these people who relied on a fixed salary every month were rich? It was impossible for them to be rich and maintain a normal life. They could barely afford to pay the down payment, repay the loan, and buy a car that cost less than 100,000 yuan. However, this was not the case. In today's situation where corruption was being severely suppressed, many small-town secretaries in small towns outside the 5th tier could easily afford to buy luxury cars worth 1 million yuan, right? It was because of the influence of such a group of corrupt people that the common people in society also thought about whether they could make a windfall and earn easy money. As a result, there was crime. The root cause of crime was corruption. It was because some public servants did not work for the people and only worked for money. That was why the values of the people in this world had changed drastically. These mercenaries were also forced to do it for money. They couldn't understand why some people who held power could exchange so much money with just their mouths, a pen, and a signature. Those who had the power to delegate a project did not need to do anything, and there would be people lining up to stuff their pockets with gold. This was the reason why these people were unbalanced. That was why they did all these things for the sake of profit. Boss, as long as you can lead us to make money, we will do whatever you ask us to do. That's right, boss. As long as we can make money, we will go all out. We will be bastards if we don't earn money. When the mercenary leader saw how motivated his subordinates were, his heart was filled with passion. Good. With your words, I will also say it today. As long as you listen to me and do as I say, I will let each of you get 500,000 yuan, let alone 50,000 yuan. Everyone was in an uproar. The mercenaries only knew how to take a share of the profits from the drug dealers. No one had ever thought about how big a snowball the final profit could be. Today, when the leader said these words, they could not help but fantasize. This profitable business was too scary. In Huaxia, except for a certain shameless phone company that would reset your data every month and your remaining call time to zero, there was probably no one who had higher profits than the drug trafficking industry, right? Today is just the beginning. As long as we slowly spread out the supply, as long as you all listen to my arrangements, I promise that you will all be millionaires in a year. The mercenary leader said boldly. He really wasn't bragging. He could really do what he said. Boss, boss, boss. The mercenaries were in high spirits. Originally, when they were in the Golden Triangle, they worked hard for a year and risked their lives at any time. The money that fell into their hands was only a few 100,000 yuan. Today, their boss gave them a new way to develop their lives. This was a big deal that could make them 10 million yuan in a year. How many big bosses in Huaxia could not make this much money in a year? Some people said that there were no real rich people in Huaxia because these rich people relied on the operation of cash flow to extract the benefits. It was a kind of loophole to fake being rich. But these drug dealers were different. Once they made money, they would really earn the money into their own pockets. They only needed to do it for 3 to 5 years and nothing happened. When they returned to the country, they would be super rich. They would find a young girl in her early 20s, get married, have a son, drive a luxury car, live in a mansion, and live a leisurely life. Not to mention anything else, with these tens of millions in the bank, there was still a lot of interest to be taken out every year to have fun. The benefits made people jealous and excited. The mercenary camp was full of joy. Everyone could not wait to leave for Huaxia to sell the goods now. Those who want to make a lot of money with me, stand to the left. If you don't want to make a lot of money with me, then stand to the right. I will not treat anyone unfairly. Even if you want to leave today, I will give you a sum of money. The mercenary leader said heroically. The atmosphere in their camp was particularly lively, so much so that they did not notice that not far from their camp, there were already 3 black shadows quietly creeping over. These 3 shadows had already heard their conversation from 100 meters away. Su Yun had already made up his mind. In a few minutes, these guys' dreams would be shattered. Chapter 32-27. Many people had seen the fighting and living conditions of professional mercenaries in movies. To put it simply, they were special soldiers who participated in wars for the purpose of money. They were a group of professional killers who made a living out of war. Therefore, they were definitely not to be trifled with. They were hired by drug dealers. Assassinations and kidnappings were trivial matters. They could even help extremist armed forces launch coups. The only thing these cold-blooded guys with messy identities had in common was that they were bellicose. They liked war. War was their life and the meaning of their existence. This characteristic of mercenaries was unshakable. If they didn't like war, they wouldn't be able to bear the hardships of being a mercenary. This profession made a lot of money. Hundreds of thousands a year was not a small amount. However, this money wasn't easy to earn. Some people only saw mercenaries carrying guns and fighting in the movies. They were dressed like dogs, so they envied these mercenaries, especially some children who were not mature enough. They would think that they would also want to be in this line of work if they had the chance. Su Yun could guarantee that if they weren't a bellicose and antisocial extremist, they would definitely regret it. The Golden Triangle was a place where it rained constantly. People would feel damp 365 days a year. For mercenaries, a completely dry t-shirt full of the smell of sunshine was considered a luxury. Moreover, the mosquitoes in this damn place were so vicious that they could make people collapse. The most common type of mosquito in South Asia not only spread acute insect-borne infectious diseases like crazy, but it could also spread yellow fever. The mosquitoes in the Golden Triangle also came out to bite people during the day. They were almost undetectable during the day, and their toxicity was strong. Even mercenaries with excellent physical fitness had died after being bitten by mosquitoes. This poisonous mosquito that lived in the woods and grass not only sucked human blood, but also rabbit blood and rat blood. Thinking about it, it sucked human blood. What a dirty, poisonous mosquito. The reason why there were so many mosquitoes in the Golden Triangle was also very simple. The larvae of the mosquitoes bred in tree holes that accumulated rainwater. They used their eggs to survive the winter. In addition to mosquitoes, there was also a kind of damn ant. A bite from that ant could hurt for more than 2 hours. Moreover, it was the kind of pain that went deep into the bone marrow, an unbearable pain. It was as if a person was walking barefoot on red charcoal, and there was also a 3-inch long rusty nail piercing into the heel of his foot. The pain was excruciating. Therefore, only the real warmongers would remain in the Golden Triangle. Those who just wanted to experience what it was like to be a mercenary would definitely not stay here for a minute longer. Normal people would not be able to stand this damned place. The reason why professional mercenaries were so powerful was because they only fought for money. Money was their only motivation and motivation to fight, so it was very simple. Mercenaries didn't care about justice at all, nor did they have any normal emotions, let alone morals. As for national interests and national honor, they were worthless to them. They were war machines driven entirely by money. Wherever money was, they would fight. Therefore, Su Yun only gave the order to Lin Gu to kill, because he knew the temperament of these people too well. There was nothing worthy of him showing mercy. At the same time, Su Yun didn't want to complicate matters. Most of the time, being merciful to the enemy would only hurt oneself. The recruitment of mercenaries in the Golden Triangle was so complicated. The most terrifying thing was that the combat ability of mercenaries in the Golden Triangle had improved too quickly. When money became more and more dominant in today's society, more and more former soldiers with actual combat experience became the first choice when recruiting mercenaries. This was because soldiers had the most combat experience. Former soldiers with special combat experience were even more popular candidates, such as former Marines and former Special Forces members. These people were popular in the eyes of mercenary leaders. For example, only a few people in the Sacred Flame mercenary group had special circumstances. Everyone else had experience in this area. Top mercenaries with special combat experience were very popular. In the world of mercenaries, every mercenary was an individual commodity. The more valuable and capable they were, the higher the price they would be willing to pay. Of course, the higher the value of the person, the higher the combat mission, and the higher the danger of the mission. If you wanted to make a lot of money, you had to have great ability. Everything here was very simple. It was completely determined by money. At the same time, because of the scarcity of manpower in the Golden Triangle, every time they wanted to send goods into Huaxia, they would face a lot of casualties and personnel losses. Therefore, the scope of mercenary recruitment was constantly increasing. Those civilian fighting masters, senior bodyguards, personnel with special agent experience, and military scientists all had the opportunity to come to this place. Then, there were gangsters and even hooligans. Those violent antisocial guys wanted to come here to make a living. This was the reason why the Golden Triangle mercenaries were mixed together. The Sting Ants were very disdainful of some mercenary groups in the Golden Triangle. The reason was that those mercenary groups were not on the same level as the Sacred Flame. Although some mercenary groups had a lot of members, there were all kinds of birds in the forest. Some trash were not even worthy of carrying their shoes. This kind of mercenary world where professional soldiers and rabble mixed together formed the unique mercenary culture of the Golden Triangle. Su Yun did not care if these guys used to be special forces or hooligans on the streets. As long as they were in this place, took money from drug dealers, and did things that harmed the people of Huaxia. Even if it was just a gram of drugs that entered Huaxia, he would not give them a chance to beg for mercy. Most of the time, Su Yun was a principled person. He would consider his own identity when doing things. However, once something crossed his bottom line, he would not consider so much. He would not give any face to the other party. For the drug dealers in the Golden Triangle and the mercenaries who relied on drug dealers to make a living in the Golden Triangle, all of them were bastards who crossed his bottom line. The three of them had quietly sneaked into the camp of this mixed mercenary group 10 meters away. Still, no one had discovered their tracks. Su Yun and Lin Gu carefully sneaked in slowly with the Sting Ants. At this time, they really did not consider the possibility that the Sting Ants would play any tricks. After all, the other party was a large mercenary group. If they noticed that their territory was being invaded, they would definitely surround and annihilate the three of them. Against these people who treated human lives like grass, the Sting Ants had no chance of persuading them to give him the green light. Therefore, Su Yun completely ignored the unstable factor of the Sting Ants. The three of them planned to sneak into the other party's camp at the same time and snatch the weapons before chaos ensued. Su Yun would immediately kill the leader of the mercenary group. This way they could easily solve the problem. The Sting Ants were very cooperative at the beginning. However, when the three of them were less than 10 meters away, the Sting Ants suddenly changed their minds. "Someone wants to ambush you." The Sting Ants suddenly stood up and shouted. The distance of less than 10 meters was enough to startle all the mercenaries in the camp. Su Yun and Lin Gu were shocked. This bastard wanted to kill them. As soon as the Sting Ants finished speaking, they quickly ran to the side. "Run!" Su Yun quickly reminded Lin Gu. The two of them did not say anything and rushed out with the Sting Ants. Not even a second had passed when gunshots suddenly rang out. Countless bullets were fired at the location where the three of them were hiding. If it wasn't for Su Yun and Lin Ji's fast reaction, they would have been pierced by the bullets and turned into a hornet's nest. This damned Sting Ants actually wanted to use this method to get rid of Su Yun and Lin Gu. This was something that the two of them had not been on guard against. The Sting Ants crazily ran through the mud. He could hear the footsteps of Su Yun and Lin Gu chasing after him. This made him regret his actions. He had gambled too much this time. If the bullets could pierce through Su Yun and Lin Ji's heads, the Sting Ants would have won this bet. It would have been a clean and beautiful victory. However, Su Yun and Lin Gu had dodged the bullets. The Sting Ants had lost completely. In this kind of mud, there was no way for him to escape from the two of them. Therefore, even if the Sting Ants were still running, they knew that they were done for. Chapter 32-28. The mercenaries fired for a while, and all the bullets in their weapons were thrown out. They were suddenly attacked in the middle of the night, so they were definitely not going to be polite. With the sound of magazines being replaced and bullets being loaded, the mercenary regiment quieted down in vigilance. Everyone's eyes fell on their boss. Some were at a loss, some were shocked, some were full of excitement, and some looked very manic. Those who could deal with the sneak attack calmly were often the truly capable people. Those who looked a little flustered were the good-for-nothings. This was not a secret. Many mercenary regiments in the Golden Triangle had such good-for-nothings. They did not have much ability, but they wanted to make money by fighting and killing. When things were going well, such people were useful and could help to do a lot of things. When they encountered big trouble, such people could also be used as cannon fodder. Mercenary regiments also needed such people. These people were often the hooligans who came to the Golden Triangle to do things through some channels. To be honest, these people were very weak. Mercenary regiments often brought them in when they could not even recruit people from the underworld. At present, there were a few hooligans in this mercenary regiment. They were already confused when they encountered such a situation. "You two come here." The mercenary regiment commander suddenly ordered the two hooligans, "Go and see what the situation is now." The two good-for-nothings guys really wanted to cry. Although they did not have the courage to go, the regiment commander had given the order. They had to go. If they did not go, they would definitely not have a good ending. It was not that they had not seen the mercenary regiment commander kill his own people. When this kind of killing one to warn the others, the target of choice was also this kind of good-for-nothings. They did not care about killing a few hooligans at all. In the eyes of the more professional mercenaries, the lives of these people were no different from cats and dogs. The mercenary regiment commander was a typical person who was born in the special forces. His skills were not simple, and he was also ruthless. No one in the regiment dared to disobey his orders. The last person who disobeyed his orders died directly in his hands, so he was very dangerous in the mercenary regiment. These two fellows, who only knew how to take advantage of the situation, carefully walked to the place where the sound came from. Their hearts were in their throats. This was something that they had to do when they joined the mercenary group. Otherwise, why would the mercenary group give them food to eat? In their line of work, this was called crossing a mine. As the name implied, this kind of thing was a gamble. If they walked over and found a corpse with its head blown off, they would win. They could happily announce this matter, and then everyone would be happy. However, if they were ambushed by the other party, they wouldn't be able to resist at all. It wasn't that they were useless and didn't even know how to fight. But think about it, a person who could survive a hail of bullets would definitely be able to kill two gangster-level mercenaries in an instant. Even if the other party couldn't kill them instantly, their own brothers in the mercenary group wouldn't be merciful to them. Their bullets would definitely be emptied out. Regardless of whether he would kill them or not, he would not stop his finger from pulling the trigger. Since they were in this line of work, they had to bear the dangers of this line of work. If they didn't have the ability to attack a city, they had to have the courage to cross a mine. Money didn't fall from the sky, but any mercenary knew this simple truth. The money in their pockets was exchanged with their lives. Regardless of whether it was a big or small matter, what they did in this line of work was something that put their lives on the line. No one was an exception. The two guys who were crossing a mine tiptoed to the place where the sound came from, which was their shooting spot. Beads of sweat dripped down their foreheads like rain. This was because they didn't find the corpse. Before they found the corpse, they had to be mentally prepared to be killed at any time. This kind of process was quite painful. The two of them held a torch and searched in the darkness for more than 10 minutes. Their minds were completely blank. There was no one. There was no corpse. If the other party wasn't dead, the two of them wouldn't have been here for more than 10 minutes without taking action. "Boss, there's nothing. Can we go back now?" The moment he spoke, it was obvious that he didn't gain the mercenary group leader's trust. The mercenary group leader directly rejected him. "Continue looking. Continue looking. If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. It's impossible for there to be nothing. Boss, he may have run away. It's meaningless for us to continue looking. Let's hurry up and get ready. Don't let them attack again." The mercenary group leader thought about it again and finally agreed to let the two guys who were crossing a mine come back first. He still hadn't figured out what happened tonight. Since they were here to attack them, why did they yell and expose their target? What was the other party's mentality? Did water get into their brains? Did they get kicked by a donkey? Or was he purposely trying to make them nervous? They had so many guns and such intensive firepower, but they didn't leave the other party's corpse. This was also suspicious. Although the Golden Triangle was said to be a place with hidden dragons and crouching tigers, the people who could escape unscathed under this kind of rain of bullets could be counted with one hand. It was impossible for ordinary people to survive in this situation. But those who had this kind of strength were big shots in big mercenary groups. It was impossible for them to come out and do this kind of thing. What's more, it was impossible for an unknown mercenary group like them to get the care of such a big shot. Therefore, the mercenary group leader was very puzzled. He couldn't understand why things turned out like this. The two men who were crossing a mine ran back. Their faces were full of sweat. "Boss, there's really no one. There's no blood at all." We looked very seriously. Could it be that they saw a ghost? The mercenary group leader's mind was blank. "Boss, we didn't really see a ghost, did we?" Suddenly, someone said, "After all, too many people died in the Golden Triangle, so there were many supernatural stories in this place." Although the mercenary group leader thought of this problem himself, when he heard his mercenaries say so, he still took out his gun and pointed it at the guy who spoke. "I'll tell you. I don't believe in ghosts or gods. What ghosts or not? There's no such thing at all. To be a mercenary in the Golden Triangle, one must not have such thoughts. If one believed in ghosts and gods, then the Golden Triangle would become a gathering place for ghosts with so many people dying unjustly. Once the thoughts of ghosts were transmitted to the consciousness of the subordinates, the team would be unable to lead. Therefore, this topic was a taboo in the mercenary group, especially the leader of the mercenary group. He hated to hear his subordinates talk about ghosts and monsters the most. No, boss. Listen to my explanation. I'm just talking nonsense. Anyone would be afraid when a gun was pointed at their head, not to mention that the mercenary group leader was not a good-tempered person. Everyone, stay alert tonight. I don't care who it was and what their purpose was. As long as they dare to appear again, we must take them down." The mercenary group leader said. Everyone quickly stood up straight. Yes. Their voices were so neat and bright. This was their method to show off to the people who sneak attacked them. They told the other party how many people they had and how far their voices could penetrate. This showed how powerful their combat power was. At this moment, Su Yun, who had run for nearly 2 kilometers in the mud, heard it. At this time, the stinging ant also gave up running. He suddenly stopped running and fell to the ground. He couldn't run anymore. Running in the mud was really too tiring. Lin Gu went up and used a grappling technique to pin down the sting ant. He shouted, "I'm going to F*King kill you right now. How dare you play tricks on us? If you want to kill me, then kill me." The stinging ant said, "I admit what I did." Lin Gu pulled him up and threw him in front of Su Yun. "Brother, if we don't teach this bastard a lesson, he really thinks that we won't dare to do anything to him." Chapter 32:29. Stinging Ant, it's not that I didn't want to give you a chance. It's just that the opportunity was right in front of you and you chose to waste it. Su Yun said, "You can't blame anyone else for this." The stinging ant didn't argue, "You can do whatever you want." Su Yun nodded, "You know very well that you have to get the beast head. Otherwise, it's no different from dying. Stinging ant, you don't want to live in this world. That's why you're trying to find a way to escape. Even if you can't escape, you can still have a quick death in my hands. Since you're clear about it, I won't waste your time." At this point, the stinging ant really didn't care anymore. His head would just be a scar the size of a bowl. For experts like Su Yun and Lin Gu, taking a person's life was just a matter of seconds. If the stinging ant could have a quick death, his life wouldn't be in vain. Unfortunately, your wishful thinking is still wrong. Su Yun smiled. "You always thought that I would give you a quick death. Why should I give you a quick death?" The stinging ant was stunned. He didn't expect Su Yun to say something like that. "You've chosen the wrong person to scare me. Let's not talk about the fact that you don't know the art of torture. Even if you do, you don't have the tools." "Do I need tools to torture you? Do you believe that I won't break all the bones in your body one by one?" Lin Gu threatened with a glare. The stinging ant didn't take it seriously. That's just child's play. Because you haven't seen real cruel torture. So, you've seen it? Su-yun said. How is it? Isn't it exciting? The torture that I've seen, almost no one in this world can withstand it, the stinging ant said. So, the torture that you want to do is nothing to me. Don't waste your time thinking about it. Just give me a quick death. You don't have to waste your time on me. Su-yun shook his head. I've heard that many drug lords in the Golden Triangle have very vicious means of torturing people. Since you've mentioned it, I think you must have seen it during your years in the Golden Triangle, right? The stinging ant was stunned. He felt a chill down his spine even though he still didn't understand what Su-yun meant. However, Su-yun's tone and expression gave the stinging ant an ominous feeling. Stinging ant, you've been very powerful in the Golden Triangle. If it wasn't because of Boss Ja's family problem, you might not have left the Golden Triangle, Su-yun continued. The thorn ant frowned. He didn't expect Su-yun to know so much about him. The intelligence department of the Mystical Dragon Brigade was not to be trifled with. It was not difficult for them to find out the background of the sting ants. Back then, Boss Ja was a fearless person in the Golden Triangle. He made countless enemies, but he was still able to gain a foothold in the Golden Triangle. A large part of the reason was that you, the stinging ant, worked for him. Su-yun didn't stop. Boss Ja offended so many people but didn't die because of you, the stinging ant, contributed the most. Am I right? The stinging ant said cautiously, this happened many years ago. It doesn't seem to make sense for you to tell me this now, right? Of course it does. Su-yun said, Boss Ja's family had internal strife and all his forces were destroyed. After that incident, you chose to go far away. However, the stinging ant's notoriety is still widespread in the Golden Triangle. The stinging ant took in a cold breath. Back then, the drug lord's wanted poster was posted all over Huaxia. You really didn't feel it at all, Su-yun said calmly. Do you know how many people's interests were harmed by you in the Golden Triangle? Every cell in the sting ant suddenly tensed up. The things that he had done in the Golden Triangle back then had indeed made many people want to tear him into pieces. And if I'm not wrong, those people are all experts in torturing people. Su-yun said, if I throw you to them, things might become more interesting. Are you threatening me? The stinging ant couldn't control his emotions. This time, it was different from before. This time, there was fear in his heart. Hence, his expression was ferocious. Su-yun nodded, that's right. I'm threatening you. If I'm not wrong, back then, because of you, a drug lord in the Golden Triangle called Go lost nearly 10 million worth of goods. He spent a lot of effort to kill you. He even swore to capture you and let you have a taste of his torture. Speaking of Go, the stinging ant still remembered him clearly. It seems like you haven't forgotten your old friend. Su-yun smiled. Go is still in the Golden Triangle and he's doing well. I believe he won't forget you when he sees you. Do you think I'm afraid? The stinging ant gritted his teeth. I know you're a tough guy. Su-yun smiled. However, I heard that this torture is really powerful. Go learned it from the medieval Germany. The stinging ant's lips trembled. He wasn't afraid of death. None of the mercenaries were afraid of death. However, the stinging ant was afraid of being tortured to death. That kind of death that wasn't pleasant and didn't look good was the most terrifying. If I remember correctly, this torture is to strip the person naked and tie them to the ground with their limbs separated. Su-yun was very serious when he said this. He wasn't joking. It seems that this torture requires the wooden spokes to be placed on the main joints. Your wrists, your ankles, your knees, your shoulders. Shut up. The stinging ant didn't want to listen anymore. Su-yun grasped his weakness. Go will use the heavy ironclad wheels to break your limbs and joints. Enough. The stinging ant said, do you really think I'm afraid? Of course you won't be afraid so quickly because this is just the beginning of the nightmare. Su-yun said sternly, because after the bones of your 4 limbs were smashed by the 4 dogs, they became soft with your flesh and blood. Then, your limbs were braided onto the spokes of the wheel, and they were hung on the front of the wheel for display. The stinging ant's forehead was already sweating. He didn't even dare to think about such an ugly appearance. You will always be conscious. I believe Go will send out invitations to the entire Golden Triangle and invite everyone to visit you. The stinging ant is finally in his hands. I believe that with your stinging ant's physique, you will maintain this state for many, many days. You will be able to clearly see the appearance of everyone who visits you, Su Yun said. The stinging ant didn't want to listen, but every word that Su Yun said drilled into his ears. He really didn't dare to imagine that scene. I don't know if Fourth Dog will let your corpse rot in the end, or will he stew you and roast you as a feast for his subordinates after you die? Su Yun asked, "What do you think?" The stinging ant finally couldn't bear the pain and broke down. "I beg you, please stop talking. I know I'm wrong. I swear I won't do it again. I'll bring you to find the beast head. I don't ask for you to let me go, just give me a quick death and don't hand me over to others." "Are you serious, stinging ant? Is that all you can do?" Su Yun said, "I'm thinking about the second person now, but my memory is deteriorating. I can't remember." "Don't think about it anymore." The stinging ant shook his head. I've lost completely. I admit defeat. I admit defeat." Su Yun shook his head seriously. No. If I can't remember this, I won't be able to sleep tonight. I remember that there's a guy from the Golden Triangle who likes to perform sawing. I really can't remember who he is. Lin Gu asked curiously, "What sawing?" "It's hanging a person upside down. Most of the blood will flow to the head. This is the most important part of the entire process because the executioner will start sawing from the crotch of the person being punished. Since the person is hanging upside down, the blood in the head can get sufficient oxygen." "Do you know why this is done?" Su Yun asked. Lin Gu shook his head. "I don't know. It's because as long as the person's head has sufficient blood supply, he can stay conscious. Most of the time, before the person is cut to the navel, or even the upper abdomen, they will be very conscious. This way, they can avoid dying from excessive blood loss. It allows the person to clearly feel the entire process of their death," Su Yun explained. Lin Ji's body went numb. This is F*King, the darkest use of human intelligence. It's sick. Chapter 32:30. The stinging ant could face death, but he couldn't face the humiliation before death. If he became the laughingstock of the entire Golden Triangle after this battle, he would rather die here immediately. "Let me die with dignity," the stinging ant said. "This is my only request." "You have a lot of requests. Why should we agree to your requests?" Lin Gu asked. "Did you do what we asked? If you didn't do it, don't be so troublesome. From now on, I will never be disloyal to anything you ask me to do." The stinging ant said, "If I betray you again, you can hand me over to Fourth Dog. You won't have any objections, right?" Su Yun's face was expressionless. His voice was so cold that it chilled people's hearts. "But I want to hand you over right now." "You will definitely regret it," the stinging ant said. "That won't do you any good. Think about it. If I am tortured, who will bring you to find the beast head? Handing you over to Fourth Dog is giving Fourth Dog a lot of face. I believe that he won't refuse to help me find something in the Golden Triangle." Su Yun said, "It's just a waste of time. But if I let Fourth Dog know how much the thing you are looking for is worth, do you think he will give it to you after he finds it?" The stinging ant said sternly. "Then I will rob him." Su Yun said, "Fourth Dog and I don't have any friendship. If I am willing to do him a favor and he still doesn't help me solve my problem, I don't have the patience to continue being friends with him." The stinging ant was speechless. What Su Yun said now wasn't just empty talk. He really thought so. "How can I prove my sincerity now?" The stinging ant said, "Give me a chance to prove it. If I can't, you can then make another unwise choice. It won't do you any harm, right?" "What proof do you have?" Lin Gu said disdainfully. "What do you need to prove in this deep forest?" The stinging ant pointed in the direction where they escaped. "If I help you get rid of that mercenary group, you will give me another chance. Just you alone? Su-Yun really didn't believe it. The spiky ant nodded. Yes, just me. I'll help you solve your mercenary group's problem. Give me a chance. Yes, of course, Su-Yun said. This is a very good deal. But have you ever thought that your actions just now have already alarmed them? Now all of them are on high alert. What do you think you can do? I naturally have my ways. The spiky ant said, You don't have to worry about that. All right, then I really want to see what you're capable of. Su-Yun nodded. I'll give you a chance. If you take down the mercenary camp, I'll give you another chance. The sting ant heaved a sigh of relief. Since Su-Yun had agreed to his request, he didn't have to worry about being handed over to a pervert. Brother, what if he colludes with those mercenaries after going in? Lin Gu reminded Su-Yun, this guy is definitely capable of doing something like that. Su-Yun smiled. Do you think those people will believe the words of a lone person like him? Lin Gu really didn't think too much about this point. Su-Yun knew very well what it felt like to be a bird startled by the twang of a bow. Right now, everyone in that mercenary group was definitely still in a state of panic. In a state of panic, they would maintain a suspicious attitude towards everything they faced. This kind of suspicious attitude would make them not believe anyone. It was impossible for the sting ant to reach an agreement with the mercenary group at this time because the other party wouldn't believe anything that anyone said. You are a smart person. You know that I have no way out of this situation. The sting ant said, I can only cooperate with you. Only then will you give me a good ending. I already understand. It's a little too late for you to understand. Lin Gu said, If I knew that you were this kind of person, I would have taught you a lesson earlier. Every man for himself, and the devil takes the hindmost. Everything I do is for myself. The spiky ant said, This is human nature. It's very normal. Su-Yun nodded. Since you said so, I can't not give you a chance. Do whatever you want. Remember, we will always be watching you. I know. I can't escape. The sting ant nodded. The three of them ran so far away and returned to the mercenary camp. Although this small mercenary group had less than 50 people, everyone was holding their guns and standing vigilantly at their posts. They were very vigilant and careful of everything around them. It wasn't uncommon for mercenaries to fight with each other in the Golden Triangle. It was also common for them to play dirty tricks on each other. Moreover, it was normal for these guys who were good at fighting to trip each other up. It was very common for them to kill without leaving anything behind. Therefore, when there was a disturbance in the middle of the night, the leader of the mercenary group would be very careful. At least so far, Su-Yun couldn't think of a good way to solve the problem alone under the other party's vigilant defense. However, the sting ant was a mercenary and had rich experience. Su-Yun believed that he must have his own unique way to solve the problem. After the three of them returned, Su-Yun and Lin Gu hid on both sides of the mercenary group's camp. The rest of the matter was left to the sting ant to handle. Lin Gu was worried at first that this bastard was playing dirty or was really unlucky to be killed by these mercenaries. However, Su-Yun was very calm. It was obvious that he knew what was going on and wasn't worried at all. Lin Gu didn't say anything more. The sting ant was very clear about the mercenary group's defense. He was also very clear about the time of their shift change. Therefore, he could easily find the loopholes in the defense and sneak into the mercenary group's base. Once such an expert sneaked in, the mercenary group would be in danger. For a mercenary group of 50 people, it was natural that all kinds of people were mixed together. There were experts, mediocre people, and trash. What the sting ant wanted to do was to quietly get rid of the experts as soon as possible. The rest of the mediocre and trash were nothing to be afraid of. With a clear idea, the sting ant was much more straightforward. The sting ant only needed to take a look to determine the appearance of the real experts among the mercenaries, where they lived, and what kind of temperament they had. Therefore, it was too easy for him to do this kind of thing. He didn't need to waste too much energy to get everything done. After the sting ant entered the mercenary group's camp, he quietly got rid of 10 experts in less than 5 minutes. These people were the main force of the mercenary group. Because they were the main force, they didn't need to stand guard outside in this kind of night when everyone was on high alert. To put it bluntly, those who stood guard were cannon fodder. They were the easiest to get rid of. However, once the cannon fodder died, it would serve as a warning to the mercenary group. Therefore, a normal mercenary group leader wouldn't let experts be cannon fodder. Cannon fodder were usually mediocre people. As for trash, the mercenary group leader wouldn't use them because even if trash died, they wouldn't serve as a warning to the mercenary group. It was a pity. The mercenary group leader's plan was perfect, but he had to face the sting ant. The sting ant alone could easily get rid of everything. This was something that the mercenary group leader didn't dare to imagine. While he was still feeling anxious in his room, the dozen or so experienced mercenaries under his command had already been silently taken care of by the sting ants. The sting ant had always been vicious and merciless. This was something that most people couldn't compare to. The assassination was carried out silently. Su Yun and Lin Gu waited outside anxiously. It was too quiet. It was too quiet. It was so quiet that it was scary. In fact, it shouldn't be so quiet at this time. Although the quieter it was, the safer it was. However, the quieter it was, the more uneasy it was. Chapter 32-31. The mercenary leader suddenly felt that the silence was a little strange. However, it was too late by the time he realized it. The moment the stinging ant's figure flashed behind him, the guy realized that danger was coming. He did a backflip and left the place immediately to avoid the stinging ant's first attack. This was the reaction of a professional mercenary. On the other side, the stinging ant seemed to have seen through everything. He knew how the other party would react and had no intention of attacking at all. "Who are you?" The Chinese mercenary leader widened his eyes and glanced at the pistol on the table not far away. The stinging ant didn't explain much. His answer was simple and crude: "I'm here to take your life. Of course, everything that happened today wasn't my intention. You don't have to blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for choosing this place to block someone's path." "What do you mean?" The mercenary leader was stunned. "What do you think you can do by yourself?" "You know very well what it means for me to be standing in front of you," the stinging ant said. "Why are you still lying to yourself?" A look of shock flashed across the mercenary leader's face. He did not believe that someone could kill so many of his men in such a short period of time. This was an impossible task. "Impossible? Do you think I'll believe you? Those who heard me coming in are all dead. You know better than me what kind of people are left," the stinging ant said. "The quality of the mercenaries in the Golden Triangle has been plummeting over the years. This is also the reason why I don't like to stay in this place." "You've been in the Golden Triangle?" The mercenary leader knew that he had encountered a tough opponent. He asked cautiously, "I've been in the Golden Triangle?" The stinging ant sneered. "If you haven't heard of me, the stinging ant, then you've wasted your time in the Golden Triangle." "Stinging ant!" the mercenary leader exclaimed. He really didn't expect this legendary guy to suddenly appear in front of him. When the stinging ant was stirring up trouble in the Golden Triangle, the mercenary leader probably didn't expect that he would come to the Golden Triangle to make a living one day. All the mercenaries who came to the Golden Triangle had heard of the legend of the stinging ant. He once helped a big drug lord monopolize almost 1/3 of the Golden Triangle supply. In those years, the stinging ant was the public enemy of all the big drug lords in the Golden Triangle. Many people offered a huge reward to find a master who could take the stinging ant's head, but no one returned. Just like that, the stinging ant's reputation in the Golden Triangle became more and more famous. In the end, it even reached a point where no one dared to provoke it. If the drug lord hadn't been poisoned to death by his lover, the stinging ants would still be roaming the Golden Triangle. However, it was also because of that unforeseen event that the Sacred Flame mercenary group was formed. From then on, the sting ant realized that it was meaningless no matter how many subordinates it had. Even though he used to lead an armed mercenary group of a few hundred people, when he became the target of public criticism and lost the backing behind him, his subordinates all fell to the ground. Almost everyone betrayed him because the Golden Triangle was a big world where money is everything. No one would choose to go against money. His former subordinates became his enemies overnight. Before the stinging ant escaped from the Golden Triangle, he killed at least 100 people. Among the 100 people, at least 70 of them used to be his subordinates. In the end, there were only a few people left by the stinging ant's side, and they all became brothers in the Sacred Flame mercenary group. From that day on, the stinging ant's Sacred Flame mercenary group never recruited mercenaries on a large scale. A group of fence-sitters that could only be used as cannon fodder was not important to the stinging ant at all. The stinging ant wanted elites. It was also at that time that his Sacred Flame mercenary group started to become famous in the world. The mercenary leader looked at the big shot, who was once popular in the Golden Triangle, in front of him. His mind was blank. He didn't know if it was out of admiration or fear, but even the thought of rebelling just now had weakened. The stinging ant didn't care about the life and death of this guy. The moment the other party let down his guard, the stinging ant attacked. As the stinging ant's most convenient weapon had been taken away by Lin Gu, he was now empty-handed. The mercenary leader was shocked when he saw this. The first thing he wanted to do was to grab the gun. Unfortunately, the stinging ant was one step ahead of him and snatched the gun from the table. Before the mercenary leader could react, the gun was already stuffed into his mouth. The mercenary leader's mouth was stuffed with the muzzle. All resistance disappeared immediately. He raised his hands on the spot and didn't say a word. "I'm going to stay here for the night. It's your bad luck to meet you." The stinging ant said, "You can tell me if you have any last wishes. But let me make it clear first. I won't do anything for you. I'm just sympathizing with you. I don't want you to keep your regrets in your stomach." After that, the stinging ant slowly pulled the gun out of his mouth. "I have 50 kilograms of goods in my hands." The mercenary leader's forehead was already covered in cold sweat. At this moment, he could only think of using money to buy his life. The stinging ant's expression changed. "How much?" 50 kilograms. The mercenary leader said, "That's a lot of money." "A lot of money. With your ability, it won't be a problem for you to bring these goods to Huaxia to sell. This is a huge fortune." The stinging ant was stunned. It wasn't that he had never seen so many goods. He had even seen 500 kilograms of goods. However, it was quite strange for a small mercenary group to have so many goods with them. "I've asked around. Go to Yanjing and Chaoyang. The more serious the report and the stricter the inspection, the more expensive the goods will be. It won't be a problem to sell them for 3,000 yuan." The mercenary leader continued, "There are many celebrities in Yanjing. It's easy for celebrities in Huaxia to make money. They don't care about this small amount of money. It's easy to sell them." The stinging ant nodded. "It's indeed easy to sell. If you can bring these 50 kilograms of goods to Huaxia and sell them, you can make 9 figures. Yeah. I'll give you all my goods and you spare my life. Isn't this a good deal?" The mercenary leader said. "It's quite a good deal." The stinging ant said, "But have you ever thought about it? Who can guarantee that you'll have the chance to spend the money you earn from selling these goods in Yanjing? Even I don't have the confidence to do things in Huaxia, let alone you. You want to do it in Yanjing? Hee. You're just afraid that you won't have the life to spend the money you earn. You can definitely do it." The mercenary leader flattered, "You're the famous stinging ant. There's nothing you can't do. You're really good at bootlicking." The stinging ant said, "It's a pity that I can't do it this time. I'm not the one who wants to trouble you. The person who wants to trouble you won't agree to your request." The mercenary leader didn't believe it. "There's no one in this world who doesn't love money. I guarantee that if you give him the goods, he'll definitely be satisfied. If I give him the goods, he'll definitely make you die a horrible death." The stinging ant sneered, "I think you still haven't met those ruthless people from Huaxia who come to the border to catch drug dealers." The mercenary leader was stunned. He really hadn't met them. After all, they tried their best not to do business in Huaxia to minimize the risk. The people from Hua Xia's drug enforcement department wouldn't cross the border to deal with the problem. This was the only advantage they had. The moment the stinging ant was distracted, the mercenary leader actually wanted to escape and rush out. However, he underestimated the stinging ant's hand speed. Before he could take a second step, the gun in the stinging ant's hand had already gone off. Bang! This shot was crisp and clean. There was no hesitation, and he didn't care if it would alert the other mercenaries. The bullet pierced through the mercenary leader's right calf without hesitation. The mercenary leader staggered and knelt on the ground with one knee. However, the second shot was immediately followed. The stinging ant was so ruthless. If he didn't cripple the other party's legs, he wouldn't be at ease. After all, they could escape with one leg. For people like them who lived on the edge of a knife, injuring one leg wasn't a big deal at all. Chapter 32:32. The gunshot startled all the mercenaries in the campsite. The sound of bullets being loaded could be heard as everyone gathered towards the mercenary group leader's position. The stinging ant reacted quickly. Without saying a word, he pulled the mercenary leader up and held him in his hands. This was the most reliable method. Although the stinging ant had already taken care of the threatening people in the mercenary group, these small fries were still quite difficult to deal with. It was easy to dodge a spear in the open but hard to defend against a stab in the dark. These small fries all had guns in their hands. The stinging ant couldn't guarantee that they wouldn't shoot at him. This was the reason why he didn't kill this guy directly. Because the mercenary campsite was in chaos at the moment, the gunshots made Su Yun and Lin Gu worried. They didn't know what the stinging ant was doing inside. It wasn't a good thing to suddenly disturb these fully armed mercenaries. If you don't want to die, tell your men to put down their guns. The stinging ant reprimanded. I'll give you a chance to live. Did you hear that? Put down your guns immediately. The mercenary leader didn't say anything else and immediately ordered his men. However, the armed mercenaries surrounding them didn't do it in time. This was something that often happened in mercenary groups, especially in the Golden Triangle. The organization and discipline weren't particularly strict. Although they wanted to save people, there was one thing they were worried about. If they put down their guns, what if the other party wanted to kill them? At that time, the initiative would no longer be in their hands. It was precisely because each of them had their own concerns that they were hesitating. They didn't know if they should give up their only remaining initiative for their boss's sake. Are you all deaf? I told you to put down your weapons. Put them all down. The mercenary leader roared. Boss, if we put down our weapons, I'm afraid he won't let you go. Yeah, boss. We can't just stand by and watch him control us all. One after another, voices of dissatisfaction came from the mercenaries. This time, some of the hesitant people were even more determined to not put their fate in the hands of others. Once they lost their weapons, they would lose everything. These fugitives were no fools. Looks like your position as the boss is really unstable. Back when he was leading the mercenary group, he was a man of his word. Not many people dared to say no to him. Not to mention doing such a thing under such circumstances. You don't even take my words seriously? The leader of the mercenary group was furious. If it wasn't for me, who do you think has the ability to maximize the benefits for each of you? It was true that he wanted to maximize his benefits, but what benefits could be more valuable than his own life? This was a very serious issue, so everyone had to think carefully about whether their lives were more valuable. At this moment, Su Yun and Lin Gu had already quietly approached the camp from the towering tree. They had a panoramic view of everything that had happened below. If you don't have anything to control your subordinates, I won't be the only one in trouble. Thorn Ant didn't expect the leader to be so cowardly. He felt helpless. I don't want to be as unlucky as you. You better come up with a plan to solve this problem quickly. The leader of the mercenary group was dumbfounded. What else could he use to control his subordinates? Your 50 kilograms of goods might be your only asset, Thorn Ant whispered to the leader of the mercenary group. The sting ant whispered into the mercenary leader's ear. He hoped that this idiot didn't pass the item to his subordinates for safekeeping. The leader of the mercenary group was enlightened. He quickly said, "Don't forget that I have 50 kilograms of goods. If it wasn't for me, you can only sell them for a few million. Think about it, how much can you split with so many of you? Only I can safely transport the goods to Yenjing. If you sell them, you can make a profit of 9 figures. Choose for yourselves." The temptation of money was limitless. "I'm not here to take your lives. Put down your weapons and we can talk." Thorn Ant said, "I don't have the intention to steal your goods. I'm just here to stay." The leader of the mercenary group didn't believe his nonsense. He wanted to kill so many of his subordinates just to stay? Wasn't that bullshit? This guy's motive wasn't simple, but the mercenary leader wouldn't expose him. He knew that he had to stay by the side of the sting ants in order to save his life, even though he might have to sacrifice the lives of his entire mercenary group in exchange for it. Even so, he would still choose to do that because he only cared about his own life. The leader of the mercenary group was definitely capable of doing such a thing. As a mercenary who was entrusted by someone, he was paid to do so. If he could escape immediately when his master's family was in trouble, one could imagine how bad his character was. In order to save his own life, he could even throw away the lives of people who paid him, let alone these people who relied on him for a living. These people's lives were worthless in the eyes of the leader of the mercenary group. They were all here to be cannon fodder. That was all. "Put down your weapons. The grudge between me and him is personal. Just don't escalate it." The leader of the mercenary group kept signaling his subordinates to not be impulsive. If these guys were to fight, the first person the Thorn Ant would kill would definitely be him. He would definitely be the first to die. "Boss, are you sure he won't do anything? If he does, we won't be able to protect you at all. Stop talking nonsense. If he wanted to kill me, he would have done so long ago." The leader of the mercenary group said, "Put down your guns. We can talk about everything. When this batch of goods is sold in Beijing, I'll split all the profits with my brothers." Just based on this sentence, 2/3 of the people were tempted. This wasn't a small amount. Doing this job would earn them more than 10 years of working in the Golden Triangle. No one in the world wanted to live a life of dealing with death, especially those who had experienced death. Sometimes, they knew how to cherish some things. Just like those who had put down their weapons. They wanted to do one last job and live a peaceful life. At this time, these people were the first to be tempted. They knew very well that without their leader, they wouldn't know how to send this 50 kilograms of goods to Beijing and sell it safely. That was why they were tempted. They only knew how to find a dealer to sell it for less than 100 yuan. It was just a fantasy to ask them to sell it for 3,000 yuan per gram. They probably didn't even believe it. In fact, the leader of the mercenary group didn't know how to do marketing. However, he couldn't say it. If he said that he couldn't do it, his subordinates wouldn't care about his life. "Don't do anything stupid." The mercenaries started to be tempted. They started to brainwash each other. Within a minute, most of the people put down their weapons. At this time, the Thorn Ant finally heaved a sigh of relief. What he did next could only be described as tragic. The moment the last mercenary put down his weapon carefully, the Thorn Ant took out an FNP-90 submachine gun from his back. This unassuming weapon had a 5.7 mm bullet with a high velocity. Its large capacity magazine could hold 50 bullets. This was its biggest advantage. The reason why the Thorn Ant seized this gun was to deal with situations like this where he was outnumbered. 50 bullets against 30 people. The high speed of fire turned the scene into a massacre. The Thorn Ant's proficiency with firearms allowed him to easily control the recoil of the P90 in his hand. Wherever the bullets passed, all the problems were solved by headshots. Every bullet killed a person. It was not a waste at all. It was simply godly. In an instant, the entire camp became a slaughterhouse. Even if these people deserved to die, Su Yun and Lin Ge still couldn't bear to look at the cruel scene in front of them. All of this happened too suddenly. Things that happened too suddenly always made people feel a little scared. Chapter 32-33. In the blink of an eye, the sting ant had taken care of all the disarmed mercenaries. This completely shocked the mercenary leader. His eyes were filled with shock and regret. "You should really thank me that all of your men are able to accompany you on your journey to hell." The sting ant smiled and said to the mercenary leader, "If it wasn't for me, you would have been very lonely walking in hell alone. As mercenaries, none of us can go to heaven. You should be mentally prepared. You're really despicable. From the very beginning, your goal was to kill all of us." The mercenary leader felt helpless at his own stupidity. "I should have fought with my life on the line with you from the very beginning. Even if I lost, I wouldn't have let you be so carefree now. It's a pity that time can't be turned back, and there's no medicine for regret in this world." The sting ant said, "A loss is a loss. Who asked you to be so naive to believe in my words?" The mercenary leader couldn't believe that his entire mercenary group was wiped out by a single person. "Why did you do this? What kind of deep hatred do we have?" "There's no deep hatred." The sting ant said, "It's just that I want to have a good sleep here. I need all of you to be obedient. Only the dead are the safest." "You just want to have a good sleep? You want to kill so many people?" The mercenary leader's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. "Of course not." Su Yun's voice suddenly drifted from behind. The mercenary leader quickly turned his head because both of his legs had been shot. Now he could not move at all. He was just a cripple waiting to die from excessive blood loss. Su Yun and Lin Gu appeared one after another. All the mercenaries in the camp had been taken care of by the sting ant, so they had nothing to worry about. "Who are you?" The mercenary leader stared at them and said, "Hua Xia people? You're actually mingling with a foreigner? I'm also from Hua Xia. We're family." The Hua Xia people in the world do not separate families. Many overseas Chinese often use this phrase when they were preparing to come to Hua Xia to make money, or when they were making money from the pockets of other Chinese. However, these words did not work in front of Su Yun. Su Yun directly rejected him. "Don't flatter yourself. People like you really don't deserve to be Chinese. What about me? You won't just stand by and watch your own people get humiliated and killed, right?" The mercenary leader tried to convince Su Yun. However, Su Yun didn't buy it at all. "When you worked for the Golden Triangle drug dealers, did you ever think about your compatriots? Why didn't you think that you were harming your own kind when the source of the poison flowed smoothly into our borders because of your existence? Now you're calling me a comrade?" The mercenary group leader was stunned. He didn't expect this person to say such a thing. This really made him feel awkward. "Do you know how many people will destroy these things once you send them into the country? This will cause countless families to fall into pain, and countless children will lose their families and the most basic love." "Su Yun, how terrible these harmful things are. When you helped the drug dealers, did you really not think about it at all?" Su Yun's words were sharp and to the point. The mercenary group leader couldn't raise his head at all. "Brother, let's not talk nonsense with him. Let's just do it," Lin Gu said, "so that you don't get angry when you see this kind of trash." "Wait a minute." The mercenary group leader suddenly raised his head. "I was forced to do it. I had no choice. I had no choice. I didn't think so much before. Now that you've reminded me, I know in my heart that I won't do that kind of thing again. Then will the previous debt be written off?" Lin Gu said, "The things you did before will still be dealt with the way you should be dealt with." The mercenary group leader shook his head. "If I could have a good life in the country, why would I do such a thing? Have you ever considered this problem from my point of view?" Su Yun didn't want to listen to this kind of excuse. Humans were such high-energy animals. As long as he wanted to, he could always find 1,000 or 10,000 excuses to clear his name. When a person knew that he had made a mistake and still kept trying to clear his name, it meant that this person couldn't be saved at all. Especially this person's face now. He didn't have any remorse at all. His face was full of resentment, as if everything should be blamed on society. Society forced me to do it. If I had a rich job in the country, I could drive a luxury car and live in a mansion every day. I wouldn't have come out to take risks. The mercenary group leader was indeed the kind of person who didn't repent. In this society, there are too many people who don't have luxury cars and mansions. In this world, there are too many people who work hard but don't earn much money. Su Yun, there's no absolute fairness, but there's also no absolute injustice. I don't understand what you're talking about, the mercenary group leader said. Lin Gu was unhappy. You don't understand? There's really something wrong with your IQ. Do you think you'll understand if I shoot you 2 more times? You've never regretted the things you've done. Just based on this, you deserve to die. Su Yun threw a sentence at him. Take your own life. Think about those who were harmed by you. Your death is not unjust at all. The mercenary group leader struggled a few times, trying to get away from them. However, both his legs were crippled by the stinging ants. He couldn't crawl very far. Why are you still running? Why don't you look at the state you're in? Lin Gu was a little speechless. If you kneel, you'll feel better. If you let me do it, you won't feel so comfortable. After saying that, Lin Gu took out a dagger from one of the mercenaries who was killed by the stinging ants and threw it in front of the mercenary group leader. The dagger fell to the ground with a clang, as if announcing his death. Everything happened too quickly. The mercenary group leader found it hard to accept. In less than an hour, he had experienced heaven and hell. Just a moment ago, he was still fantasizing about how he could become a billionaire. In the blink of an eye, he had become a prisoner facing death. We don't have any grudges. I can give you 50 kilograms of goods. Why do you have to kill me? The mercenary group leader couldn't believe it. It's better to leave a way out so that we can meet again in the future. Lin Gu shook his finger. We don't need to meet. Why don't you understand human language? Where's your goods? Su Yun suddenly asked. Lin Gu was stunned for a moment. He did not understand why Su Yun wanted the goods. In any case, before they left, they would burn down the entire camp. No matter where the goods were hidden, they would eventually be reduced to nothing. It's under the bed in my room. The mercenary group leader seemed to have seen a glimmer of hope. At this time, who cared about money? Not to mention 50 kilograms of goods. As long as he could survive this disaster, even if it was 100 kilograms of high purity, he wouldn't hesitate to take it out. Su Yun gestured for Lin Gu to look for it. Although Lin Gu didn't understand what Su Yun meant, he still obediently followed his instructions. Soon, Lin Gu took out a bag of goods. It was really 50 kilograms of goods. It was the first time Lin Gu saw so many drugs. He was a little confused. Do you know how many people these things can harm? Su Yun said. These things can harm tens of thousands of people. That's because they don't have self-control. Why can some people control themselves and others can't? The mercenary group leader said. This shows that the person doesn't have self-control. Su Yun pointed at the goods. Do you touch these things yourself? Of course I don't touch them. The mercenary group leader denied. Only an idiot will touch this kind of thing. This is something that can kill people. Everyone in the Golden Triangle knows that. No one is stupid enough to touch this kind of thing. It's good that you know. Su Yun said, you don't even touch it yourself, but you use it to harm people. What is this called? The mercenary group leader was stunned. The ancestors have said since ancient times, don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. Su Yun said, you know that this thing is harmful, but you still take it out to harm people. You deserve to die. I thought you would also touch this kind of thing, like many drug addicts, using drugs to grow drugs. It seems that you are not. You are more abominable than those people. The mercenary group leader had nothing to say. In his opinion, people who sold drugs to make money were also idiots. Chapter 32-34. This was the most hateful thing about the drug lords and their mercenaries. They knew that these things couldn't be touched, and once touched, they would be crippled. Yet, they still sold them to others. Many people who worked in the field of narcotics enforcement knew this. Although Su Yun wasn't in the field of narcotics enforcement, he had dealt with quite a few drug dealers in the past few years. Su Yun only understood this industry after dealing with drug dealers for a few years. The people at the top of the pyramid would never touch these things, and they were very strict with their subordinates not to touch these things. They were different from those who were already addicted to selling drugs. Those people sold drugs because of their addiction, but these people at the top of the pyramid only did it for money. The drug dealers liked to use a diversion tactic. They knew that they were being watched, so they would go back and forth empty-handed to attract the police's attention and give their subordinates an opportunity. This was a tactic that many drug dealers liked to use. With such a clear mind, it was obvious that they wouldn't do something as stupid as touching drugs. Su Yun understood this kind of people so well. It could be traced back to a few years ago, when he first assisted the narcotics enforcement team in apprehending a cunning drug dealer. It was in a city called Guigang. Those who were familiar with the South would know that the city was located in the southeast of Guangxi Province, upstream of the Pearl River. Guigang's transportation was very convenient, including railways, highways, and water transportation. Everything was very smooth. This place could be said to be an important passage from Guangxi Province to Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau. In those few years, and even now, with the changes in the domestic and international drug crime situation, Guigang unknowingly became a place where drugs from overseas had to pass through from Guangxi Province to Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau. Furthermore, it became an important transit point for new drugs from Guangdong Province to Guangxi Province. The rampant drug business in this place attracted the attention of the government, but the criminals were too cunning. Furthermore, there were some ruthless characters in this place, so the Dragon Brigade directly mobilized Su Yun's Dragon Fury team to this place. Su Yun led his men to assist the Guigong Public Security Bureau's anti-drug detachment in targeting the active underground drug market in some towns in the suburbs. They set up a special task force to conduct a secret investigation and cracked a series of drug trafficking cases. Under the lead of Su Yun, after a long period of investigation, they found out that a man named Huang Jian was a big drug lord in this area. He was going to bring a large amount of drugs back to Guilin from a certain city in Guangdong Province known as the Sauna City. After Su Yun analyzed the route from Sauna City to Gue Harbor, he made a prompt decision to set up an ambush at the east gate of Guangxi, which was the Guidong toll station at the junction of the Guangdong-Gue Highway. Then, he led his brothers to capture Huang Jian. To this day, Su Yun still remembered that noon. With the help of the local anti-drug detachment of the Public Security Bureau, Su Yun led the brothers of the Dragon Fury team to ambush the suspect, Huang Jian, and the two experts beside him. These two guys weren't easy targets. They were ruthless and merciless. Previously, they had made the local anti-drug police suffer. However, what Su Yun didn't expect was that Huang Jian didn't have any drugs on him. They only found a few grams of K powder and some fairy water on Huang Jian's two bodyguards. Su Yun personally interrogated them that night. Huang Jian's two bodyguards quickly admitted to the crime of carrying drugs, but Huang Jian denied that he had anything to do with the drugs. Later, the local police found out that Huang Jian had asked one of his men to transport most of the drugs back to Guilin via another route. There was a reason why Huang Jian had brought his men along the route that Su Yun and his men had ambushed them. He had even prepared a small amount of drugs for his two bodyguards to carry. It was all **King trap. Compared to playing tricks, this **MN Huang Jian was pretty good at playing tricks. Firstly, Huang Jian was scouting the route. Secondly, he was creating a diversion to divert Su Yun and his men's attention. This time, the police couldn't do anything. Without any evidence, the police could only release Huang Jian. As for his two bodyguards, they weren't locked up for long before they were released. In order to catch this ****, Su Yun had no choice but to regroup. This Huang Jian wasn't simple. He had actually changed his name and his focus had shifted to the border area. It was also at that time that Su Yun started dealing with the drug dealers at the border of the Golden Triangle. This Huang Jian was lucky enough to escape Su Yun and the police's capture. He played the trick of a cicada shedding its carapace. From then on, Guilin didn't have Huang Jian anymore. There was another guy called Huang Chenduo. In order to get rid of this scourge, Su Yun requested the Municipal Public Security Bureau's anti-drug detachment to increase the investigation of this Huang Chenduo. After a long investigation, the anti-drug detachment finally obtained an important piece of information. This Huang Chenduo had gathered a large amount of funds and was preparing to do a big business at the border of Guangxi during the Chinese New Year. After receiving the information, the anti-drug detachment of the Guilin Public Security Bureau immediately set up a task force to cooperate with Su Yun and his Dragon Fury team to investigate the case. During the Chinese New Year, Huang Chenduo brought 3 of his men and drove to the Chinese-Vietnamese borders Changgang City. After arriving at the Changgang City, they started to secretly contact some local drug dealers. After another 2 days, Huang Chenduo brought one of his men to Dongxing City to make contact with an unidentified foreign person. Dongxing City was located at the southwest end of Huaxia's coastline. It was at the intersection of the Chinese-Vietnamese border. The border trade business here was very prosperous. In the crowded city, Huang Chenduo dealt with the Vietnamese drug dealers and bought back the drugs. He processed them in the hotel and sold them to Guangdong Province, Wuzhou, Guilin, and many other places. A few nights later, Su Yun and his men confirmed a lead. Huang Chenduo had just bought a batch of drugs from Dongxing City and returned to the Changgang City. He asked his men to drive around and around the city. He thought that he had gotten rid of all the spies and finally drove into a car repair shop. The leader of the anti-drug detachment decided to seize this opportunity. Su Yun and the police also hit it off. They decided not to give Huang Chenduo any more chances. This time, they had to catch all of his drug dealers in one fell swoop. Su Yun directly led his Dragon Fury team brothers to the Changgang City. The next morning, Su Yun led his Dragon Fury team brothers to the bustling Changgang City. The anti-drug detachment of the Changgang City Public Security Bureau transferred many police officers and arranged for the team leader to personally lead a team to assist Su Yun and his men. At this time, Huang Chenduo's gang had already gathered in a large hotel in Changgang City. Since returning from Dongxing City the night before, Huang Chenduo's gang hadn't left the hotel. They drove a car with a Guilford license plate and parked it in the hotel's parking lot. Su Yun decided at that time that they couldn't act rashly and alert the enemy. They had to set up an ambush around the hotel and wait for the opportunity to capture them. The drugs in Huang Chenduo's hands were evidence. If they acted rashly and alerted the enemy, Huang Chenduo only had to grit his teeth and flush all the drugs down the toilet. The police wouldn't be able to do anything to him again. Su Yun and his men waited for an entire day. It wasn't until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when the sky was a little dark, that one of Huang Chenduo's men came down from upstairs. He walked into the parking lot alone and drove the car with a Guilford license plate out of the hotel. The henchman drove around the streets and finally drove the car into a car repair shop. He borrowed a jack and immediately drove away. After driving around the streets aimlessly for a long time, he returned to the hotel again. At this time, the sky was completely dark. Many people might not know what a jack was used for, but Su Yun was very clear about its use. After Huang Chenduo bought heroin with high purity, he had to crush the drugs in chunks and mix them with a certain amount of powder to increase the amount of drugs. This was the reason why 1 gram of high-purity drugs could be exchanged for several grams. After Huang Chenduo was done exchanging the drugs, he would recompress them into chunks and sell them to his next buyer. In a temporary processing place like the hotel, a jack was the best processing tool. Huang Chenduo had his henchmen carry the jack back to the room. What did this mean? It meant that the drugs were still in the room. Chapter 32-35. Once this was confirmed, Su Yun decided to act immediately. At that time, Huang Chenduo was staying in a room on the 6th floor of the hotel, while his 3 accomplices were staying in rooms on the 4th floor. Su Yun divided all of Dragon Fury's brothers and the anti-narcotics team into 3 groups. The first group was led by himself, and they went straight to the room on the 7th floor to arrest Huang Qianduo. Because Huang Qianduo was a dangerous criminal gang, he had weapons in his hands. The second group was led by Hua Leiteng, and they went directly to arrest Huang Qianduo's 3 accomplices on the 5th floor, not giving them a chance to breathe. The third group was led by Han Zhan, and they ambushed around the hotel to prevent Huang Qianduo from escaping, and also to prevent outside help. According to the plan, Su Yun quickly rushed to the 7th floor and kicked open Huang Qianduo's room door. At that time, the room was surprisingly quiet, and there was the sound of running water and a leisurely humming in the bathroom. When Su Yun rushed into the bathroom, Huang Qianduo, who was holding a young and flirtatious girl, was suddenly stunned. At that time, Huang Qianduo was completely stunned. He was completely dumbfounded. This was really beyond his expectations. The arrest without any warning made him too lazy to resist, and he felt that there was no point in resisting, so he just gave up. On the bed in Huang Qianduo's room, there was a whole piece of drugs. On the TV cabinet, there were a few packets of crushed drugs. On the floor, there were tools for processing drugs. The whole room was like a processing workshop. The girl who was attracted by Huang Qianduo was also stunned. She didn't come here for money, but for drugs. A girl who fell because of drugs was really pitiful. In order to get the so-called extreme happiness that drugs brought her, she was willing to sacrifice her body. For such a girl, other than being pitiful, Su Yun had nothing to say. After the police checked on the spot, they found more than 1,000 grams of drugs in Huang Qianduo's room. Hua Leiteng and his men arrested 3 Hong Kong suspects in a room on the 4th floor. After some investigation, the 3 suspects were addicted to drugs, and decided to follow Huang Qianduo into drug trafficking. They were all fans. In order to solve the problem of drug money, they secretly connected drug dealers like Huang Qianduo with foreign drug dealers, earning intermediary fees, and then buy drugs for their own use. But this Huang Qianduo, although he had been in the drug business for a long time, he never touched drugs himself. He said that people who touched drugs were idiots, and normal people would never touch such a damn thing. Only an idiot would play with his own life. Su Yun this sentence very clearly. Su Yun had a special kind of disgust. I just don't want to see these people get upset. Su Yun glanced at the stinging ant and didn't give him a chance to speak. Also, I think that I should give you something to do so that you won't have any other thoughts. The stinging ant was speechless. Su Yun's words left him speechless. You're right. Lin Gu said, you really should have something to do. Otherwise, with so much energy on you, who knows if you'll forget the oath you just made. I already said that I'd rather you give me a quick death than hand me over to the 4 poisonous dogs. The stinging ant said, isn't that sincere enough? Then stop talking nonsense. Lin Gu pointed at these people. Although these people deserve to die, since you killed them yourself, it's best that you bury them yourself. It's not a bad idea to accumulate some good karma for yourself. Otherwise, if you meet these people in hell, they'll gang up on you. The stinging ant was speechless and shook his head unwillingly. I'm not joking with you. If you bury them now, at least they'll give you a chance to explain and apologize when you go to hell. Lin Gu pursed his lips. Don't waste time. If I can kill them once here, I can do it again in hell. The stinging ant was really stubborn. Lin Gu clicked his tongue. Don't forget how many people you've killed in your life. These people might come looking for trouble with you. Aren't you the same? Don't talk as if your hands aren't stained with blood. The stinging ant said coldly, I'm afraid the blood on your hands isn't any less than mine. Lin Gu spread his hands and shrugged, but the people we killed were people who deserved to die. You're going to hell, and we're going to heaven. We're not even on the same level, okay? No matter how many bastards I kill, they won't have a chance to take revenge. The stinging ant couldn't win against him in words. Just as it was at a loss for what to do, Su Yun suddenly scattered the 50 kilograms of high-purity goods on the muddy ground. How much money was that? Many people didn't even dare to imagine that they could have so much money in their lifetime. 50 kilograms was a huge amount even in the international market. There weren't many drug lords who could make such a batch of goods. At least, There weren't many in Huaxia who could make so much in one go. The super platinum, in many people's eyes, was destroyed by Su Yun just like that. Keep an eye on him, Su Yun said. He can't rest until he's done. Lin Gu nodded. Don't worry, brother. He won't be able to sleep tonight. Although the ground was soft because of the rain, it was still a huge project to bury so many people. The stinging ant only had 2 hands, so it wasn't easy to finish it in one night. Chapter 32-36. It had nothing to do with Su Yun whether the sting ant was tired or not. Su Yun knew how dangerous it was to march at night in the Golden Triangle. Moreover, after they took back the camp, the thunder god roared angrily a few more times. Lightning tore through the night sky, followed by a torrential downpour. The sting ant stood there like a drenched rat. Although it was angry and unwilling, it didn't dare to say a word. It didn't have the capital to bargain with Su Yun, so it could only obediently complete the task that Su Yun assigned to it. Lin Gu stood under the roof with no expression on his face. He had to watch the sting ant finish the task. At first, the sting ant only moved a few times. Seeing that Lin Gu had no intention of looking away from it, it could only continue. Due to the torrential rain, although it was easier to dig the holes, the corpses that were buried would be easily washed out by the torrential rain. Therefore, the sting ants had to dig very deep to ensure that they did not need to do it again. While Su Yun was resting, Lin Gu had been conscientiously supervising the sting ant. When the sting ant had buried more than half of the corpses, Su Yun suddenly walked out of the room and patted Lin Ji's shoulder. The two of them didn't say anything. Lin Gu knew what Su Yun meant. He nodded and went back to his room to rest. They had to conserve their energy and get enough rest to ensure that they could focus. This way, the sting ant wouldn't be able to take advantage of them. When Su Yun came out, the sting ant glanced at him. After Lin Gu went back to his room, the sting ant said, "You're quite considerate of your subordinates." "I don't have any subordinates. I only have brothers," Su Yun said expressionlessly. After resting for 3 hours, he was much more comfortable than the sting ant. The sting ant continued to dig and bury the corpses. "You and I are quite similar in this aspect. If we were lucky enough to know each other a few years earlier, we might have become friends. I'm different from you. Don't compare me with your hypocritical things. Su Yun, I'm not like you, who would casually use your brother. And the brother I'm talking about is definitely not like the brother you're talking about, who would betray you. If we bump into that traitor when we're looking for the beast head, can you give me a chance to get rid of him?" The sting ant suddenly stopped what it was doing. Su Yun's answer was very simple. "I'm afraid you won't have the chance." "Why?" The sting ant was startled. "When we took the beast's head, I'm afraid that the guy who betrayed you couldn't come to the Golden Triangle yet," Su Yun said. "The Philippines won't let him leave the country so easily." "You don't know Jim at all," the stinging ant said. "I can guarantee that he has a way to solve the problem." Su Yun frowned. "How?" "All of you have already been recorded by the hotel surveillance. The entire Philippines police system is looking for all of you. He can hide in the Philippines for a while, I believe that. But if he wants to come out, I'm afraid it won't be that easy." "If you say so, then I really have to ask," the sting ant said. "How can the Philippines police catch someone who's proficient in disguise?" "Disguise?" The sting ant snorted self-deprecatingly. "That bastard Jim's best skill is his disguise. So what? Even if he disguises himself, he can only hide in the Philippines. Su Yun, people who are capable of making fake IDs only exist in Huaxia. The Philippines doesn't have any high-end talents who know how to make fake IDs." The sting ant was still confident in Jim. "He doesn't need any fake IDs at all. He just needs to go to the airport, find someone who booked the tickets a day or two in advance, and kill that person." Su Yun's expression changed. 2 days is enough for him to kill someone and get the IDs. It's also enough for him to buy all the items he needs to disguise himself. He only needs to spend 8 hours to carefully disguise himself as its twin, who looks exactly like the victim. No one will be able to find him, the sting ant said. Su-yun nodded. You continue to be an alarmist. It's just that I don't want to hear it. You really don't believe me? The sting ant said, then don't blame me for not reminding you. I just want to tell you that at this moment, Jim might have already reached the Golden Triangle. Su-yun naturally considered this point. If he comes to the Golden Triangle, he will face the same situation as us. Indeed, but he doesn't need to guard against anyone. The sting ant said, but you need to guard against me. That's because of you. Su-yun, sting ant, what are you trying to say? Don't beat around the bush, okay? If the item is really taken away by your traitor before we arrive, you know very well what will happen to you. The sting ant said, if Jim takes away the beast head, you will definitely kill me. Su-yun nodded. I know what you are worried about. You are worried that this is a trap. I will stay here to delay you and then arrange for a fake traitor to come here and take away the item first. The sting ant said, you Huaxia people like to pay attention to tricks. This is also a good trick. Then what kind of trick are you trying to play? Su-yun, I am not a person who has the patience to play tricks with others. I don't have the ability to play tricks with you Huaxia people, the sting ant said. The spiky ant said, I just want to remind you that Jim might do something unexpected and do something that we didn't expect. Su-yun was a little surprised. If he can really take us by surprise and take away the item, you should be happy. At least your men didn't die in vain. If I can take the item and leave, I will definitely feel that they didn't die in vain. But if the item is taken away by Jim, I would rather let you take it away. The sting ant said, I don't want a despicable person to succeed. If the beast head is really taken away by that traitor, even if I have to search the whole world, I will definitely kill him with my own hands. Su-yun sneered. Su-yun knew very well what the sting ant meant. I know that if Jim takes away the beast head, you won't give me a chance to find him, the sting ant said. But I still want to say it. I want to say what is in my heart. If I don't say it, I will feel uncomfortable in my heart. Then tell me, said Su-yun. If there's anything else that makes you uncomfortable, just tell me. But you better do it while you say it. If you don't bury these people properly, we won't go on our way. The sting ant was stunned. But I don't need you to tell me. If we leave 1 minute later, we will give the traitor 1 more minute of opportunity. Su-yun, I know this very well. Then why do you still want me to waste my time here? The sting ant was puzzled. I really don't understand. What is the point of making me do all this? Since you don't want them to live, then they should be worthless after death. Su-yun's answer made the sting ant speechless. They are indeed worthless and don't deserve to live. But dying in a foreign country is already the heaviest punishment. There is no need to let wild wolves and dogs eat their bodies. The sting ant was helpless. It could only continue to wave the shovel in its hand and do its job obediently. Another 3 hours passed. The sting ant finally buried all the corpses. His face was full of fatigue. At this time, Lin Gu walked out of the room. Although the sky was not bright yet, the faint white light in the east told everyone that they were about to welcome a whole day of light. Some people would work hard for the light of this day. Some people would continue to wait for the darkness from the moment the light came. The Golden Triangle was a place full of sunshine and rain. It should have been a beautiful place, but it was turned into a sea of evil by the bright poppy flowers. Who would have thought that this would happen? The world was unpredictable. No one could be sure what would happen in the next second. The sting ant threw away the shovel in its hand and sat on the wet, muddy ground. Although the rain had stopped, the ground was still very muddy. Go and change your clothes. There are many dry clothes in the room. There will be one that suits you, Su-yun said. Then he looked at Lin Gu. Have you rested enough? No problem at all. Lin Gu said, if you want me to endure for another 3 days, it won't be a problem. Chapter 32-37. The sting ant found a suitable set of clothes to change into. As soon as it walked out, Su Yun immediately ordered it to continue walking. One had to know that the sting ant had not stopped for the entire night. Right now, both of its arms were sore. Every step it took in the mud was difficult. This was something that many people had never experienced before. Every step was more exhausting than 10 steps on a normal road. The sting ant did not complain. Under Su Yun's signal, it directly followed behind Lin Gu and walked forward. Su Yun brought up the rear. He looked at the muddy ground where the people were buried and shook his head helplessly. Then, he turned around and left. Although these people deserved to die, they were hateful but also pitiful. This was because behind each of them, there might be a happy family. However, this kind of happiness was not worth thinking about. Even if they had families, wives, and children, if they did not return home for many years, it would be very difficult for them to protect their families. A life of living on the edge of a knife, shocking scars on their bodies, and dark skin that could not be healed after being burned by the sun for a long time. These were the shadows of their families. Su Yun could only think that their deaths were worth it. At least they were not allowed to help drug dealers to harm those truly happy families. The families of these mercenaries were probably like babies. When their wives were not around for many years, it was easy for them to burn their desires to the people around them. Every year, the mercenaries only brought money to their families. Everyone understood the principle of wanting to satisfy one's needs. Who knew how many green hats these mercenaries had on their heads? There was a saying, when a mercenary is busy with work, his friends will help him. Everyone was guarding against Old Song, but they did not expect Old Song to climb over the wall. No matter who lived next door, when it was necessary to guard against them, they had to guard against them. Although the mercenaries did not have a manager, they usually had a referral. Once a mercenary had a family, he would instruct his referral to help him take care of his family when he was not at home. Then, he would give his referral a sum of money. This referral was no different from a manager. Managers would also help their artists take care of their families when they were busy. In addition to taking care of his family, he also had to take care of all kinds of needs. Su Yun turned around and strode away. He didn't care about them anymore. If the wives of these mercenaries really had an affair with the manager who took their money, no, the person who introduced them to Old Song, then he could only hope that those people who did such things would cherish them and not abandon their wives as soon as they were buried. Su Yun wasn't sure if these mercenaries would do the same, but it was very likely that Old Song would do the same. The three of them walked for 5 hours before stopping to rest. Their legs felt like they were filled with lead. The mercenary group just now was too down and out. They didn't even have a car, but it wasn't their fault. After all, they were the ones who escaped from their employer's house. At that time, they probably only cared about saving their lives and didn't think about anything else. Lin Gu found some compressed food in the previous camp. The three of them made do with some and then sat on the rocks to rest. How much more? Lin Gu was irritated and emotional, so he spoke in a hurry. 1/5. The stinging ant didn't lie. Su Yun could tell what kind of expression a liar would have. Lin Gu didn't care about that. He went forward and picked up the stinging ant. What the F***ck are you trying to do? 1/5? How long have we been walking? You tell me it's only 1/5. You can't blame me. The stinging ant said, the place where we landed was originally very far away, and you know what the road is like. It's already not bad if we can walk 20 kilometers in an hour. What more do you want? Su Yun waved his hand to signal Lin Gu not to waste his energy. Venting his anger on the stinging ant wouldn't solve the problem. Brother, if we continue walking like this, it will take us at least 3 days. Lin Gu said, this is under the condition that we don't meet any trouble. If we meet any trouble, we might not even be able to. Just as Lin Gu was about to finish his sentence, trouble came. The sound of an engine not far away and a few gunshots completely diverted their attention from the compressed food. In the blink of an eye, the sound of an engine appeared in front of the three of them. A Dongfeng armored off-road vehicle produced by Hua Xia appeared in their field of vision. There were 4 people in the car, and all of them had weapons in their hands. This was a double-row Dongfeng armored vehicle with a soft roof. The soft roof had already been removed. Other than the driver, the other 3 people were standing in their seats, holding a gun in one hand and a metal frame in the other. They stared at the 3 of them, cursing as they aimed. Su Yun and the other 2 were all experienced veterans. They raised their hands immediately. At times like this, they had to compromise. Otherwise, the other party would start shooting while driving. At times like this, it was impossible to even dodge bullets. The car was already in a swaying state. If they opened fire in this state, the bullets would be blind. Therefore, the 3 of them clearly did the same thing. They first showed their weakness and used this method to tell the other party that they had no weapons in their hands. Although the military backpack that Lin Guo looted had a few guns and some bullets, they still showed a fearful expression. Among the 3 of them, only the stinging ant was wearing clothes that were originally worn by the local mercenaries. Su Yun and Lin Ji's clothing and appearance had nothing to do with the local mercenaries. Therefore, the attention of the 4 people in the car was mostly focused on the stinging ants. Instead, they felt that Su Yun and Lin Guo were not much of a threat. They looked like 2 small melons, and there was nothing to be afraid of. Su Yun and Lin Guo were also happy to be like this. They raised their hands obediently and waited for the 4 armed men to come. God is too good to me. He really gave me whatever I wanted. Lin Guo was secretly happy. He whispered to himself, with this car, we don't have to walk anymore. Don't show the excitement on your face. We're being held hostage. Su Yun hurriedly whispered to stop Lin Guo from being happy. If you don't want them to kill you, then be good and shut up. Lin Guo nodded and didn't say a word. The stinging ant thought that these 2 people were too careless. What if the other party opened fire without saying anything? Robbing the car. It would be good if they could survive by then. In this damned place, the mercenaries were all crazy. No one could guarantee that they wouldn't pull the trigger in the next second. The armored off-road vehicle circled the 3 people 3 times, and the dirt it kicked up flew everywhere. Although the Dongfeng armored car didn't look good, its performance wasn't bad. This car produced by Huaxia wasn't any weaker than the foreign cars. I really don't know where these guys got this car. We are just travelers passing by. We definitely didn't mean to offend you. Su Yun was the first to speak. There were 4 people in the car. 2 of them looked like locals, and the other 2 looked like Chinese. Su Yun didn't make a mistake. There really was a Chinese in the car. He immediately said, "Is this a place that you travelers should come to? You can't play like this in the wild." The car suddenly stopped. The 4 people didn't have a strong defense, but one of them still held a gun and pointed it directly at the stinging ant's head. The stinging ant raised his hand and didn't say a word. He knew that Su Yun wouldn't let him die so easily before they found the thing. "Where did you get these clothes?" The guy with the gun in his hand also spoke. He could tell that these clothes were only worn by local mercenaries. He definitely had doubts in his heart. "I picked them up on the road," the stinging ant said. "Picked them up?" Su Yun nodded. "We got lost yesterday." He fell into a muddy pit. When he didn't have any clothes to change into, he accidentally found them. "Do you think that your reason is very powerful?" The driver scolded. "Only a retard would believe your bullshit reason. Tell us, who are you people? Where did you come from? If you don't behave, we will shoot you right now." The 4 of them raised their guns and looked like they were going to punish them on the spot. Chapter 32-38. Tell me, where did you get the clothes you're wearing? The armed man pointed his gun directly at the stinging ant's forehead. "I'll ask you one last time. If your answer doesn't satisfy me, I'll send you to hell to explain." The stinging ant couldn't help but frown. These guys looked like hot-tempered youngsters. They might really do something outrageous. "Then whatever you think is going on is going on." The stinging ant said, "I'm not going to explain. You can ask them." The stinging ant looked like he was throwing his life to Su Yun and Lin Gu. His life belonged to the two of them, so he didn't have much to think about. He didn't want to waste his time and effort. Tell me, what happened to the two of you? The Chinese armed man seemed to be taking care of Su Yun and Lin Gu. Were you captured by this guy? You're quite observant, Lin Gu said sarcastically. This guy didn't even take a look at how good he was. To be able to capture the two of them, he must have terminal eye cancer. Another person looked at Su Yun and Lin Gu from head to toe, then said to his companion, "It seems like this guy kidnapped two rich Chinese. If we bring them back, wouldn't we be the ones getting rich?" "Yeah, this is like a pie falling from the sky. There's no reason for us not to take advantage of it," the third person said. "Then let's see if they have anything valuable on them. Bring it back and let them contact their families to ask for ransom." The Chinese armed man was the most ruthless one. He made a decision with a glare: if you don't pay the ransom, kill the hostages. Su Yun raised his hand to signal the Hua Xia, "We're all Chinese. Why do you have to do this? Isn't it good to give us a way out?" "If I give you a way out, I won't have a way out," the Chinese armed man said. The Chinese armed man said, "Since you have the time and mood to come to this damn place to play adventure games, you must be the children of rich families. Besides, your family's money might not be clean, so it won't be that difficult to take it out." "Is that what you think?" Su Yun said, "Will rich kids come to the Golden Triangle? Aren't you overthinking it?" "Of course, I didn't think too much about it. There are so many rich second-generation heirs who want to come here for excitement. You're not the only one I've seen." Hua Ji sneered. If he didn't have some family background, how could he have time to come out and play at this time? Su Yun was also quite speechless about his calculation method. "That's right, but look at us. We don't look like rich second generations at all. It's meaningless for you to catch us. At this time, we don't have time to consider whether you have money or not. Whether you have money or not, we have to bring you back and interrogate you properly." Hua Ji said, "If you really don't have money, we'll just be wasting 2 bullets. Are we really going to tear the tickets?" Lin Gu was stunned and looked at Su Yun. "Brother, this really can't be a joke." "Indeed, it can't be a joke." Su Yun said, "Big brother, how many tickets have you kidnapped and torn?" "I don't know." Hua Ji said, "I came to the Golden Triangle to rely on this to make a living. You guys cooperate well. As long as I get the money, I will definitely let you go. This place is outside of Hua Xia. I don't have to worry about the Hua Xia police catching me, so I will definitely do what I say." Su Yun nodded. "Then you really have integrity. If you don't have integrity in doing things these days, you won't be able to survive at all." Hua Ji said, "Don't talk nonsense with me. I'm not alone. It's not good for you to plead. This is not my own business." Lin Gu cooperated. Yes, it's not easy for you to go out. We should really help each other and take care of each other. We also have the obligation to take care of your business. I feel much better if you think so. We are all Hua Xia people. You guys cooperate with my work. I will help you as much as I can." Hua Ji said, "At least I can guarantee that you won't suffer too much. If you can give enough money, I can even guarantee that you can enjoy delicacies every day." Su Yun smiled with satisfaction. "If that's the case, we should really thank you properly?" "That's natural. It shouldn't be difficult to eat delicacies here. There are mountains everywhere. But I'm afraid that seafood is much rarer." Su Yun said, "Can you have things like sea cucumbers and abalones?" "Of course, as long as you want to eat, there is nothing that I can't get." Hua Ji smiled. "We can talk about anything. If you guys cooperate with me, I will take care of you 100 times. The other 3 people saw that Su Yun and Lin Gu were quite cooperative, so they didn't say anything. One of them kicked the stinging ant and said unhappily, "You still want to earn money? Don't you know where you are? This is our territory within a radius of 30 kilometers. You are too naive if you want to snatch business in our territory." The stinging ant ignored this person. It turned around and looked at Su Yun. Its eyes were asking, "If you don't do it now, I will be dead." These guys would leave the two valuable Chinese people behind, but they definitely wouldn't leave a useless piece of trash like him. To them, the stinging ant was a potential threat. The sooner they got rid of it, the more relieved they would be. Su Yun smiled at the stinging ant. His smile told the stinging ant that he was ready to do it at any time. The stinging ant finally got the signal. Without saying a word, it suddenly moved behind the person and snatched the gun from his hand. Then, it pulled the trigger. The bullet flew out with a bang. The person didn't even have a chance to react. His head was blown up by the stinging ant. The stinging ant aimed its gun at Hua Ji. At the same time, Hua Ji also aimed his gun at the stinging ant. Both of them stopped their next move. Instead of killing each other, it would be better to compromise. In less than a second, the other two people also aimed their weapons at the stinging ant's head. If the stinging ant dared to make a move, he would be dead. He could kill one, but he definitely couldn't kill two or three. He would definitely die. In an instant, the air in the area froze. Everyone didn't dare to breathe loudly. None of the three people expected each other to suddenly make a move. He was definitely courting death. "If you guys want to play, I will play with you," the stinging ant said. "Killing one of me is enough. Now, I just need to shoot any one of you. Even if I can't kill you, I won't lose out." The three of them didn't want to be the scapegoat. Therefore, they looked at each other and didn't dare to be too aggressive. Just when the three of them were focused on the stinging ant, Su Yun and Lin Ge suddenly made their move. With two cracking sounds, the two of them knelt on the ground and stopped breathing. Both of their necks were broken. When Hua Ji realized that they had fallen into a trap, he turned around and wanted to aim. However, Lin Ge stepped forward and kicked the weapon in his hand away. He was completely stunned. The stinging ant didn't hesitate and shot him from behind. The bullet pierced through the back of his neck, creating a bloody hole in his throat. Hua Ji died with his eyes wide open. Even until his last moment, he still couldn't believe that they would fail so easily. After Lin Ge kicked Hua Ji's gun away, he immediately jumped behind the stinging ant. The stinging ant understood Lin Ge's intention. After he shot the last person, he immediately dropped the gun's magazine on the ground. Then, he held the gun with 2 fingers and slowly passed it to Lin Ge, who had already prepared everything behind him. Lin Ge was stunned when he saw this. He didn't expect the stinging ant to be so cooperative. It was unbelievable. Not bad. Lin Ge kept the gun. Very good. I'll count this as your contribution. Let's see if there's anything delicious in the car. I'll definitely share it with you. The stinging ant snorted. He wasn't the kind of person who would do anything for a mouthful of food. Lin Ge kicked a few of the unlucky bastards, and all of them stopped breathing. He asked Su Yun in surprise, "Brother, what kind of people are these? Are mercenaries only capable of this much? Robbing? Mercenaries don't go so far as to be robbers. These are just some low-class people. Mercenary groups don't even like them. Su Yun, if they want to make money, they have to find people to rob. No matter who it is, as long as they meet them, they will attack." You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.